You awaken to the faint, muffled sound of a ticking clock somewhere beyond the thin walls. The air is cool, almost unnaturally still, like it's been held in place for a long time. The ceiling above you is low, cracked in places, and a single dull bulb hangs from an old, frayed wire. You're lying on a narrow bed with stiff sheets that rustle like dry leaves when you move. The room is quiet except for that persistent ticking, like a heartbeat slow and deliberate. You sit up and glance around. Faded floral wallpaper peels from the walls in curling strips, and the once ornate wooden dresser wears a film of dust, despite no sign of abandonment. The furniture is old-fashioned, too formal for a place so worn down, an odd mismatch. Your eyes are drawn to the window. The curtains, a heavy mustard yellow, hang unevenly, caught in a permanent half-pull. You pull them back slowly. Outside, there is nothing. No city, no trees, no sky, no streetlights. Just an endless, featureless gray void stretching beyond the glass. It's as if the window opens into a place where nothing exists. The glass feels cold under your fingertips. A low voice, distant and soft, slips through the quiet. "Is this where you wanted to be?" It asks, almost coaxing. You turn sharply, but the room is empty, save for the chair by the bedside, where the fabric appears oddly stained in a pattern that shifts when you look directly at it. You speak, your voice cracking slightly. "Who's there?" Only the ticking replies, steady, hypnotic. From the dresser, you notice a small rectangular mirror angled oddly. You approach and see your reflection, but something is off. Your eyes in the glass seem dimmer, slower to follow your movements, as if trapped behind a film of water. The door to the hallway creaks open with a slow, deliberate groan. Outside, the corridor stretches infinitely in both directions, bathed in dim, flickering fluorescent light. The walls are lined with closed doors, each marked with a different faded number, but none match the room number you remember entering. A figure appears at the far end of the hallway, indistinct and shadowed. It doesn't move closer, only watches silently. You want to call out again, but your voice is swallowed by the thick air. The clock's ticking grows louder, now seeming to pulse through your chest, syncing with your own heartbeat. You feel drawn to the window again. The void beyond doesn't blink or shimmer, but somewhere deep inside, you sense a movement, a presence watching back. Suddenly, the room temperature shifts. A cold breath brushes past your neck like the sigh of a forgotten thing. You turn sharply, but again, nothing. You stumble backward and catch your heel on the bed frame. As you steady yourself, the voice returns, barely audible, whispering, "You're not meant to stay. But you can't leave either." The window begins to fog slowly, spreading from the edges inward. Shapes start to form, faces, doors, fleeting glimpses of impossible landscapes that vanish when you blink. Your mind feels heavy, weighed down by the silence, the nothingness outside. Somewhere inside you, a question pulses, relentless: why are you here? And what is the room trying to show you? The fog on the window thickens until it blurs the glass completely. You press your palm against it, the coldness seeping deep through your skin, anchoring you to the here and now, or so you think. Your breath fogs the glass as well, creating temporary smudges that reveal and hide strange, shifting images. Through the haze, a shape begins to solidify. It's a corridor, long, narrow, and lined with the same peeling wallpaper as your room. The floorboards creak faintly as if someone invisible is pacing back and forth. The corridor bends, then vanishes into darkness. You lean closer. A whisper threads through the silence, this time clearer, softer, like wind stirring dry leaves. "Look deeper," it says. "There's more beyond the surface." You blink. The image dissolves. The window returns to emptiness, the gray void swallowing the shapes. Your heart thuds unevenly. The ticking slows, becomes irregular, almost hesitant, like it's waiting for something. You turn away from the window, rubbing your temples. The faint light bulb above flickers in a rhythm too steady to be random. You reach out to steady it, but the bulb hums and a warm glow radiates suddenly, filling the room with a muted amber light. It reveals details you hadn't noticed before, a small pile of dusty books on the bedside table, their spines cracked and faded, a cracked porcelain cup with dried stains at its bottom, and a folded note lying face down near the edge. You pick up the note. The paper is brittle, aged, but the ink is fresh. The message reads, "The doors you seek are behind your eyes. Follow the ticking." The ticking resumes its regular pace, louder now, a rhythmic pulse echoing somewhere deep within your chest. A sound from the door makes you jump, the lock clicks softly, but the door remains closed. The handle rattles lightly, as if someone is turning it from the other side. You call out, voice steadier this time, "Who's there?" No answer. Only the ticking. Suddenly, the bed creaks behind you. You whirl around, but nothing moves except the thin curtain near the window, fluttering though the air is still. You sit back down on the edge of the bed, the note clenched in your fist. What doors? You whisper to yourself. What doors are behind my eyes? A new thought forms. Maybe this isn't just a room. Maybe it's a space between spaces. A place not meant to be occupied, but a threshold to something else. The chair by the bedside shifts just slightly, as if settling under a weight no one is carrying. The stain on its fabric appears to twist, shapes flowing slowly like ink dropped in water. Your eyes drift to the mirror again. This time, your reflection is absent, replaced by a dense shadow. It doesn't mimic your movements but watches you, calm and still. You reach out a trembling hand. The glass feels impossibly cold, then suddenly warm, like the breath of something alive. A voice speaks softly from the mirror's depths. You dreamt this. You are dreaming it still. You can wake, but first you must see. The ticking changes pitch, rising and falling like a lullaby sung by a distant, unseen choir. You close your eyes, and when you open them again, the window's void is gone. Instead, you see a doorway, faint, trembling at the edges like a mirage. The hallway beckons again. And you know you have to step through. You rise from the bed, the note still clenched tightly in your hand, your footsteps muffled on the threadbare carpet. The heavy air feels thicker now, as though the room itself is holding its breath, waiting. The door that clicked earlier stands closed, but the faint glow from beneath the edges seems to pulse softly, like a heartbeat mirroring your own. Steeling yourself, you reach for the doorknob. It turns without resistance. You push the door open and step into the hallway, or at least, what feels like a hallway, though it bends and shifts subtly beneath your gaze. The walls are the same peeling floral wallpaper, but here the edges dissolve into a haze of muted color, as if the corridor itself is slowly losing form. Fluorescent lights overhead buzz with a low, uneven hum, flickering intermittently, casting long shadows that never quite settle. The hallway stretches endlessly, lined with closed doors on both sides. Each door is different, some heavy and wooden, others thin metal, some with peeling paint, others pristine, almost too new for this place. None bear numbers, only cryptic symbols scratched roughly into the surface, symbols that shift and change when you blink. You walk forward slowly, your footsteps echoed strangely, sometimes louder, sometimes swallowed by silence. The ticking from the room is gone, replaced by an indistinct murmuring, like voices just beyond comprehension. You stop at one door, its symbol resembling a twisted key. You reach out to touch the cold brass handle, hesitant. The door creaks open with an agonizing slowness, revealing not another room, but a dark void, like the window's nothingness, except now, the void ripples faintly with faint threads of color, as if alive. A whisper curls from the darkness, "Choose." You step back, heart pounding. The hallway seems to close in, the walls bending imperceptibly closer. From deeper in the corridor, footsteps echo, slow and deliberate. A figure emerges, silhouette vague and flickering, like a projection out of sync. The figure stops a few feet away and raises a hand. You can't make out a face, just a blur of shifting shadows where features should be. You cannot stay, it says, voice low and hollow, but you cannot leave until the doors have spoken. Your voice falters. What doors? What must I do? The figure's outline flickers, then fades into the shadows of the hallway, leaving behind a cold silence. You realize the note was right. The doors are inside your mind, waiting to be found. Your fingers brush the symbols on the nearest door again. The twisted key glows faintly, warm to the touch. You turn the handle fully this time, and as the door swings open, a soft light spills out, inviting and strange. You step inside and feel the hallway vanish behind you. Ahead, the floor is smooth and white, glowing softly under your feet. The walls are made of shifting mist, coalescing into half-formed shapes, faces, eyes, hands, all blurry, all just out of reach. In the center of the room, a chair sits facing away from you. On it, a folded garment, familiar, yet impossible to place. A voice echoes again, this time closer, gentler, sit. Remember. You hesitate, then move toward the chair. Sitting feels like sinking into warm water, enveloped and safe. The mist around you thickens, wrapping you in muted whispers, memories not your own. Flickers of light show fleeting images, rooms you never visited, faces you never met, moments that feel both distant and immediate. Why am I here? You ask the empty air. The chair creaks softly. Because you dreamt this. Because some part of you sought the void, and now it answers. A shiver runs down your spine. Outside, the door you entered through has vanished. Only the mist remains, waiting, watching. You close your eyes, letting the whispering mist seep into your thoughts, the slow pulse of the unseen ticking returning, steady and deep. The mist curls around you like slow smoke, curling up your arms and whispering secrets in a language you almost understand but can't quite grasp. It clings to the edges of your vision, where shapes ripple and shift, faces that dissolve before you can focus, hands that reach and vanish into nothing. You sit in the chair, its weight reassuring, grounding you despite the strange sensations. The soft pulse of ticking fills the room again, steady and rhythmic, like a distant heartbeat syncing with your own. Remember, the voice murmurs, warm and coaxing. It's neither male nor female, neither young nor old, but something in between, timeless. Your eyelids feel heavy. Images flicker behind them, a corridor lined with doors, each door a choice, a face that smiles but never blinks, a window framing a sky that's no sky, just endless gray. A name floats to the surface of your mind, forgotten but familiar. You open your mouth to speak it, but the sound dissolves before it forms. The mist thickens, shaping into a figure sitting across from you. Its form is vague, something like a person, yet blurred at the edges, like a half-remembered dream. It tilts its head, eyes dark pools reflecting your own. You came here looking for an escape, it says softly. But this place is not an escape. It is a waiting room, a mirror for your soul's edges. You want to ask what that means, but your voice is caught in your throat. The figure gestures, and suddenly the mist parts to reveal a door, different from the others. It's carved from a dark wood, ancient and worn, with no handle, only a faint glow from its cracks. You must open this door, the figure says. But beware, what lies beyond is both your fear and your freedom. You stand, heart pounding, every instinct screaming to run, yet your feet move forward, drawn to the door. Your hand reaches out, trembling, and touches the wood. It's warm, pulsing like a living thing. As you press, the door creaks open slowly, revealing a corridor bathed in twilight, with walls that hum softly like the resonance of forgotten memories. The mist figure fades, its last words lingering, the dream and the waking blur here. You walk the thin line. Step forward. You step through the door. The room behind you dissolves instantly into the same featureless gray void seen from your window, empty, silent, vast. Ahead, the corridor stretches on endlessly, lined with doors marked by symbols you recognize now, your hopes, your regrets, your fears, all waiting to be faced. Your breath catches. You realize you are both inside and outside the dream, caught in a space where time and place fold over themselves. And yet, as the ticking pulses steady again, you take the first step down the corridor. Your footsteps echo softly along the corridor's smooth floor, the hum of twilight walls a quiet undercurrent to the rhythm of your steps. The doors line the passage like silent sentinels, each marked with a shifting symbol, some you recognize, Others are alien and twisted, flickering like smoke. The air is thick with a strange, almost electric stillness. You notice the absence of a ceiling. Above you, an endless expanse of velvety dusk spills downward, dotted with shimmering points of light that pulse faintly like distant stars. You pause before a door marked with a symbol that feels deeply familiar, a spiral, infinite and turning inward. The wood is cool beneath your fingertips, smooth but with a subtle vibration that hums through your hand. The door is unlocked. You push it open and step inside. The room is small, empty except for a tall mirror standing against the far wall. The mirror's surface ripples faintly like water disturbed by a breeze. You approach, and your reflection appears, yet it's wrong. Your eyes move slower than your head, your smile lags behind your lips, and your reflection seems to watch you with a knowing sadness. A voice, soft and distant, whispers from the mirror's depths, "This is the place where you face yourself." You stare, breath shallow. The reflection begins to shift, morphing into a version of you, but altered, older, wearier, eyes hollowed by unspoken things. "Who are you?" you ask. The reflection smiles, slow and sad. "I am the you that was lost, the part left behind in dreams you never dared to chase." Suddenly, the mirror's surface ripples violently, and you feel a tug in your chest, like a thread pulling tight. You step back, heart racing. The reflection speaks again. "To leave this place, you must accept what you hide, the forgotten rooms inside your mind." Behind you, the door creaks shut, leaving you alone with the mirror and your fractured self. You reach out tentatively, fingertips grazing the cool surface. The mirror ripples, then parts like a curtain, revealing a glimpse of a new space, a room bathed in soft, sepia light, filled with scattered memories and half-forgotten moments. The ticking you've come to recognize starts again, slow and steady, as if marking the passage of something precious and fragile. You take a deep breath and step forward, crossing through the mirror's threshold. You step through the mirror and find yourself standing in a small, warmly lit room that hums with a gentle nostalgia. The walls are lined with shelves filled with scattered objects, dusty photo albums, cracked clocks frozen at different times, worn shoes resting as if waiting for their owner to return. The air smells faintly of old paper and forgotten rain. In the center of the room is a low table, upon which lies a single open book. Its pages are blank, but as you approach, words begin to appear, ink spreading slowly like spilled water forming letters. You lean in and read. "What is forgotten is not lost. What is hidden awaits your gaze." The ticking sound is softer here, like a distant lullaby. Shadows flicker at the edges of your vision, faces half glimpsed in the periphery, fleeting and familiar yet impossible to grasp fully. You hear a soft shuffle behind you. Turning quickly, you see a figure in the doorway, a child, no older than 10, eyes wide and searching. Their clothes are tattered, stained with dust and time. "Who are you?" you ask gently. The child's lips part, but no sound comes. Instead, they point silently toward a small door set low in the far wall, barely noticeable, its surface cracked and painted in peeling white. Compelled, you move toward it. The door creaks open with a groan, revealing a narrow stairwell spiraling downward into darkness. The child watches you intently, eyes filled with an urgent plea. You hesitate, heart pounding, but the ticking grows louder, steady and insistent, like a heartbeat demanding you descend. With a deep breath, you begin to step down the stairs. Each step echoes as the walls close in around you. The air grows cooler, damp with the scent of earth and forgotten things. At the bottom, you enter a small chamber bathed in faint blue light, where forgotten memories lie tangled like threads, fragments of laughter, sadness, and moments you never lived but feel you should remember. A voice, neither the child's nor your own, whispers, "To move forward, you must face what you have left behind." You close your eyes, feeling the weight of the unseen rooms inside your mind stretching out endlessly. When you open them again, the chamber is empty, but the ticking continues, steady, eternal. You know your journey through these liminal spaces has only just begun. The faint blue light hums softly around you, wrapping the chamber in a quiet, otherworldly glow. The air feels thick, laden with memories you can almost touch but cannot name. The ticking reverberates through your chest like a heartbeat tethered to this strange place. You step forward, the floor beneath your feet cool and smooth. The walls, once bare stone, now pulse gently, like the skin of some great slumbering beast. Shapes ripple beneath the surface, indistinct figures, faces frozen in fleeting emotion. You reach out, but the walls dissolve like mist before your fingers brush them. From the darkness beyond, a faint murmur rises, voices speaking without words. You strain to listen, catching fragments of laughter and sorrow, joy and regret, all mingling in a haunting chorus. A low whisper brushes past your ear. We are the things left unsaid, the moments you wish to forget. A door appears suddenly, emerging from the blue haze. It is carved from driftwood, etched with strange symbols that pulse softly in time with the ticking. You grasp the handle, and the door swings open silently. Inside is a room bathed in twilight, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and old letters. A single desk stands in the center, covered in scattered papers, photographs, and a flickering candle whose flame seems to breathe. On the desk lies a photograph of yourself, but altered, eyes darker, smile faintly twisted. You pick it up, heart fluttering. Behind the photo, a folded note rests, the ink smudged but readable. Look closely. What you see is only half the truth. The candle flickers violently, casting shifting shadows that twist into strange shapes on the walls, faces staring, mouths moving silently. A sudden chill runs down your spine as the ticking shifts tone, slowing then accelerating erratically. The room feels alive, breathing alongside you. You hear footsteps outside the door, slow, deliberate. You turn, heart pounding, but no one is there. The shadows ripple again, the candle's flame flickers once more, and you realize this place is not just a chamber of memories. It is a mirror, a reflection of everything hidden inside you: fear, hope, regret. The note's words echo in your mind. What you see is only half the truth. You sit at the desk, the photograph in your hand, the candle flickering. And the ticking grows louder, steady now, a beacon in the encroaching darkness. You sit at the desk, fingers tracing the edges of the photograph, eyes fixed on the flickering candle flame. The shadows dance with a rhythm that feels alive, like they're watching, waiting for you to make the next move. The scattered papers catch your attention. You begin to sift through them one by one. Most are blank, but occasionally, a page reveals faint, half-formed words, written in a trembling hand. A phrase appears as if inked by unseen fingers. The door behind the eyes opens only with a question. You whisper the words aloud, and the room seems to inhale. The candlelight steadies, and the ticking returns to its steady pulse, slow, measured, like a heartbeat. On the desk, a small book you hadn't noticed before lies closed, its cover worn and soft. You open it, and the pages flutter like wings. The text is written backward, letters flowing like liquid, making it impossible to read. Yet, somehow, you understand the meaning in fragments. To escape, you must surrender what you hold most dear. A chill trickles down your spine. The footsteps outside the room grow louder, echoing closer. Your breath catches. You glance toward the door. The handle begins to turn slowly. You close the book abruptly. The door swings open, revealing nothing but thick, swirling fog that spills into the room like a living thing. From the mist, a voice speaks, soft, almost coaxing. Do you fear what lies beyond? Your heart races, but you know this is the threshold you must cross. You stand, clutch the photograph and the note tightly, and step toward the fog. As you cross the threshold, the desk, the room, the candlelight, all dissolve into a new, endless space where time folds upon itself and the ticking becomes a distant echo. You have stepped beyond the mirror, beyond the room of memories, into the place where forgotten fears and whispered dreams intertwine. You step through the thick fog, and the world around you dissolves into a swirling haze of pale gray and faint shadows. The ticking sound fades to a distant murmur, then to silence. Your footsteps make no sound on the soft, misty ground beneath you. All around stretches an endless space, neither night nor day, neither warm nor cold, just a vast, empty liminal expanse. Shapes emerge from the fog, walls, staircases, doorways, all fragmented and incomplete, as if the world is half-built, waiting to be finished or forgotten. A figure materializes ahead, shimmering faintly like a reflection in water. It has no clear form, shifting constantly between a child, a stranger, and a version of yourself you barely recognize. It raises a hand in greeting. "Why have you come here?" it asks, voice echoing like a dream half remembered. You search for an answer but find only questions swimming beneath your thoughts. The figure smiles softly. You seek meaning where there is none. But in this place, meaning is a door waiting to be opened. It gestures toward a cluster of doors floating unsupported in the fog. Each door is unique, some old and worn, others pristine, some cracked and faded, others shimmering with light. "Choose," it says. And no, each door leads to a part of yourself you have forgotten or hidden. You approach the doors, heart pounding. One draws you closer, its surface warm and inviting, etched with swirling symbols that seem to pulse like a heartbeat. You reach out and touch the handle. The door swings open silently, revealing darkness within, but a faint glow beckons from its depths. You step through. The fog closes behind you, swallowing the door and leaving you alone in a new space, a room filled with soft, golden light, the walls lined with mirrors reflecting endless versions of yourself, each slightly different, none quite right. The ticking returns here, steady and soft, like a lullaby coaxing you deeper into the dream. You realize, this journey has no end, only layers unfolding, doors opening into more doors, and the echo of a question you cannot yet answer. The golden light wraps around you like a gentle warmth, softening the edges of the endless mirrors that stretch in all directions. Each mirror reflects a version of you, some smiling, others somber, some fading like mist, others sharp and vivid. Yet none seem fully you, as if your true self is fragmented across these glassy surfaces. You step forward, passing mirror after mirror. Faces shift and flicker, whispering silent stories you cannot quite hear. One reflection catches your eye, it moves differently, lagging a moment behind your motions. Its eyes bore into yours, heavy with unspoken weight. A soft voice breaks the silence, coming from nowhere and everywhere. Which one will you choose to be? You hesitate, overwhelmed by the myriad selves staring back. A sense of longing wells inside you, to be whole, to escape this fractured place. As you reach out toward the lagging reflection, the mirror ripples like water. Your hand plunges through the glass, cool and fluid, and suddenly you're pulled forward, tumbling through layers of shimmering light. You land softly in a small, dim room, walls lined with shelves filled with dusty objects, a clock frozen at midnight, a cracked music box, an old diary with pages yellowed by time. A voice, faint and echoing, whispers, "These are the fragments of who you were and might have been." You pick up the diary. Its pages flutter open to a passage written in a familiar hand. In the spaces between waking and sleeping, the self unravels and rewinds. To find peace, you must piece together what you have left behind. The ticking, ever present, slows to a comforting heartbeat. You feel the weight of the diary in your hands, a tangible thread tying you to this place. A door creaks open behind you, soft golden light spilling in. You stand, ready to step through, knowing the journey continues, through forgotten memories, lost moments, and the endless corridors of the mind. You step through the golden light, diary pressed close to your chest. The corridor beyond feels narrower, walls wrapped in faded tapestries that ripple like water. The ticking is steady now, a metronome for your wandering thoughts. Your fingers trace the diary's cracked spine, and the pages flutter open again, this time revealing words written in a looping script, half faded, half vibrant. In dreams, doors are keys, and keys are memories. To unlock the way forward, you must give voice to what lingers silent. The walls seem to lean inward, whispering faint echoes of past regrets and wishes. Faces flicker in the tapestries weave, friends forgotten, moments lost to time, choices unmade. You pause at a doorway draped in heavy velvet, its color shifting between deep crimson and shadowed black. The door stands slightly ajar, inviting yet foreboding. Behind it, a soft glow pulses. Heart pounding, you push the door open and step inside. The room is a forgotten theater. Empty seats face a cracked stage illuminated by a single spotlight. The air smells of dust and distant rain. On the stage stands a lone figure, faceless, motionless. You feel a silent pull toward it, as if the figure holds the answers you seek. As you approach, the figure raises a hand, revealing a small wooden box carved with the same spiral symbol from before. You reach out, and the box opens with a sigh, revealing a collection of old keys, each unique, tarnished brass, polished silver, some delicate, some heavy. A whisper fills the room, each key unlocks a door within you. Choose wisely, or be lost forever. The ticking swells into a rhythmic chant, urging decision. You hold a key tightly, feeling its weight, knowing that the next door you unlock will lead you deeper, into fear, memory, or perhaps something beyond. The wooden box rests warm in your palms, the keys gleaming softly in the dim light. Each key feels alive, some smooth and cool, others rough and worn. You close your eyes, trying to sense which one calls to you most. A faint hum vibrates through the theater, rising and falling with the ticking that now pulses like a heartbeat. You lift a slender silver key, delicate yet strong, its teeth shaped like twisting vines. The moment your fingers close around it, the room shivers, the spotlight flickers, and the faceless figure steps forward, dissolving into a mist of soft light. Ahead, the velvet curtain at the back of the stage parts slowly, revealing a narrow door carved from dark oak. It beckons. You move toward it, heart steady but eyes wide, the key heavy in your hand. The door creaks open, and you step through into a narrow hallway lined with mirrors, each reflecting a different moment from your past, moments you have forgotten or never fully understood. The ticking slows, now a soft whisper guiding you forward. At the hallway's end, another door waits, marked with the same spiral symbol. You realize the journey is cyclical, each choice a layer deeper into yourself. You take a breath and reach for the handle. The door swings open silently, revealing a small chamber bathed in soft twilight. The walls are lined with mirrors, endless, shifting, and fragmented. Each pane reflects not just your image, but a memory, a whisper, a forgotten feeling. Some reflections smile, others frown, and a few blink slowly as if alive. You step inside, the soft hum of the ticking now more like a distant song, familiar, yet just out of reach. Your footsteps echo, but the floor beneath feels both solid and unreal. One mirror ripples, drawing your gaze. You see yourself, but younger, standing beside a door you don't remember, old, wooden, and slightly ajar. Behind it, soft light spills, warm and inviting. A voice, gentle and clear, speaks from the shadows. This is the door you left unopened. The part of you waiting to be seen. You reach out, fingertips brushing the cool glass. The mirror ripples again, and suddenly you're pulled through, falling softly into the memory itself. You find yourself in a forgotten room, sunlight spilling through dusty windows, walls lined with books and trinkets from another life. The air smells of old paper and rain. In the center, a small wooden chest rests, locked tight. The ticking slows to a gentle beat, like a heartbeat steadying. You realize this is not just a memory, but a place where forgotten hopes and fears lie buried, waiting for you to unlock them. The wooden chest sits quietly in the center of the sunlit room, its surface scarred by time but sturdy, as if guarding secrets meant to remain hidden. You kneel before it, the air thick with anticipation and a faint scent of lavender and dust. Your fingers search for the key, and then you remember, the slender silver key from the theater, still warm in your hand. You lift it carefully and slide it into the lock. It fits perfectly. With a gentle turn, the lock clicks open, and the lid creaks as it rises, revealing a bundle of letters tied with a faded ribbon, a cracked music box, and a small, delicate locket. You pick up the letters and carefully untie the ribbon. The paper is brittle, the ink faded, but the words still clear. To the one who finds this, you are not lost. You are becoming. The music box hums softly as you lift it, and when you wind the tiny key, a haunting melody fills the room, slow, melancholic, yet strangely comforting. The locket opens to reveal a tiny, faded photograph of a younger you, smiling but with eyes shadowed by something unspoken. A voice echoes softly in the room. What you hold is the past, the present, and the promise of tomorrow. Embrace all, and the path will open. The ticking resumes its steady rhythm, a pulse of life threading through the silence. You stand, the weight of memory and hope settling within you, ready to continue. Ahead, the door you entered through stands ajar, light spilling warmly from beyond. You step forward, feeling the pulse of the ticking guide you deeper into the dream. Stepping through the warm light spilling from the open door, you find yourself in a vast, quiet atrium. The air is soft and fragrant, carrying whispers of distant rain and blooming flowers. The ceiling stretches high above, a shifting canvas of twilight hues, pinks fading into purples, then deepening blues. Around you, liminal spaces bloom, forgotten hallways, empty playgrounds, abandoned cafes, all suspended in stillness. You move forward slowly, each step cushioned by soft moss that grows beneath your feet, glowing faintly. A figure appears at the far end of the atrium, a woman in flowing white, her face obscured by shifting light. She smiles gently, a smile that feels like a forgotten lullaby. "You've come far," she says, voice smooth and calm. "But the journey is not yet over." She gestures toward a spiral staircase curling upward, its steps woven from moonlight and shadow. This staircase leads beyond the dream, to a place where waking and sleeping entwine. But you must choose, ascend and awaken, or descend and explore deeper. The ticking resumes, a slow, steady pulse matching the beat of your own heart. You stand at the base of the stairs, the choice stretching before you like a breath held in time. The woman's smile lingers, warm and knowing. And you feel, finally, that whatever you choose, you are not alone. You place your hand on the smooth, cool railing of the spiral staircase, feeling the subtle pulse of light beneath your fingertips. Each step seems to hum softly with quiet energy, the air around you thick with calm anticipation. As you ascend, the walls dissolve into swirling stars and quiet nebulas, the vastness of a midnight sky stretching infinitely on every side. The ticking sound blends with the distant murmur of wind and faint echoes of whispered voices, soft and soothing, like a lullaby sung by the universe itself. Halfway up, you pause. Behind you, the atrium fades slowly, replaced by a deep, peaceful silence that wraps around you like a warm blanket. Ahead, a doorway forms within the spiral's curve, glowing faintly. You step through it and find yourself standing in a small room bathed in gentle, golden light. In the center sits a rocking chair, slowly moving back and forth despite no breeze or movement. You approach it carefully, and the chair slows, coming to rest as you near. A soft voice speaks from nowhere and everywhere. This is the place between waking and sleeping, where dreams take root and memories bloom. You sit in the chair, feeling it cradle you with a comforting warmth. The ticking slows to a heartbeat, steady and sure. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, feeling the space around you dissolve, pulling you gently toward rest. The rocking chair cradles you gently, its motion slow and steady like waves lapping against a quiet shore. The golden light around you dims softly, wrapping you in a cocoon of calm. The ticking slows further, no longer a distant pulse but a warm, familiar beat echoing inside your chest. In this place between waking and sleeping, time stretches and softens. Faces and voices from your past drift by like faint, comforting breezes. They don't demand your attention, only brush past like memories you're allowed to hold without pain or fear. A presence, neither seen nor heard, settles beside you, a feeling of safety and understanding. You sense it watching over you, a guardian of this fragile borderland where dreams take shape. Your eyelids grow heavy, the room fading into hues of twilight and shadow. The ticking becomes a lullaby, pulling you gently downward into a deep, peaceful rest. As you surrender to the quiet, the last thought to pass through your mind is the gentle whisper, "You are home, even in the in-between." And with that, the dream carries you softly into sleep. The gentle rocking slows to a halt. The golden light around you softens to a pale glow, like the first light of dawn, fragile and comforting. The heartbeat of the ticking slows too, matching the slow rise and fall of your own breath. You feel weightless, as if floating just above the earth, suspended between worlds. The edges of your vision blur, colors melting into one another like watercolors spreading across paper. Soft, indistinct shapes drift past, the outline of a forgotten room, a flickering candle, a quiet hallway where your footsteps echo but never disturb the stillness. You hear a whisper, tender and distant, "Rest now. There is nothing to fear here." Your thoughts grow hazy. Time loses meaning. The world you knew dissolves gently into shadows and light. A sense of peace settles deep inside you, an anchor in the endless twilight. And as the dream drifts you further, you feel safe, held, and free. The pale glow around you dims to a soothing twilight, soft and boundless. Shapes become whispers, shifting corridors lined with worn wallpaper, empty benches under flickering street lamps, endless staircases that vanish into the mist. Your breath slows, syncing with the gentle pulse of the ticking, now a distant hum like waves lapping against a forgotten shore. Voices murmur softly beyond the haze, half-remembered lullabies and promises whispered long ago. They blend into a quiet chorus that soothes without words. You drift slowly through the liminal space, weightless, untethered from worry or haste. A quiet knowing settles in your chest. This place, strange and vast, is a refuge, a space between what was and what will be. The last sensation is the cool brush of unseen wings, gentle as a sigh. And with that, you drift deeper into sleep, held by the endless twilight. The twilight deepens, wrapping everything in a veil of soft silence. The ticking is almost gone now, a faint echo fading into the hush. You float through this quiet expanse, where time feels like a gentle current moving beneath you. Faint shapes drift past, a forgotten playground bathed in moonlight, a row of empty swings swaying without wind, a lone street lamp flickering in a deserted alley. These fragments feel familiar but unreachable, like memories just beyond grasp. A calm presence surrounds you, a warmth that holds you steady as your thoughts slow and soften. You realize you are no longer walking, you are drifting, suspended in this peaceful nowhere. A whisper, barely audible, floats through the silence. Here, in the stillness, you may rest. Your eyelids grow heavy, the edges of the world fading into gentle shadows. You breathe in the quiet, letting it fill you completely. And with a final, gentle sigh, you surrender to the deep, endless sleep waiting just beyond the veil. You drift slowly through the quiet, the world around you dissolving into soft folds of mist and shadow. The ticking has ceased altogether, replaced by a serene stillness that wraps you like a warm blanket. Shapes shift softly at the edge of your vision, a half-seen doorway, the faint outline of a window, the glimmer of stars just beyond reach. They beckon gently but never demand. A voice, distant and tender, whispers, between waking and dreaming lies the veil, thin, fragile, and welcoming. You feel yourself passing through that veil, the last tether to the waking world loosening like a thread slipping free. In this place, there is no fear, no pain, only the gentle unfolding of rest. Your body feels light, unburdened, as if floating on a soft current beneath a twilight sky. And as your breath slows to silence, you surrender fully to the peaceful unknown. You glide softly through the mist, wrapped in a quiet embrace that feels like home yet unlike any place you've known. The world is muted now, sounds fading into a gentle hush. The edges of your vision shimmer like morning dew, blurring all sharpness into soft light. A warmth spreads through you, calm, steady, like the steady pulse of a lullaby sung long ago. There is no hurry here, no urgency, only the slow, steady unfolding of rest. Faint shapes drift around, branches swaying without wind, a distant flicker of lantern light, shadows that curl and dissolve like smoke. They brush past gently, as if to remind you that you are safe. You breathe deeply, the rhythm slow and even, each breath drawing you deeper into stillness. The world softens completely, and you feel yourself floating, suspended in a peaceful quiet that stretches on forever. And in this space, you know, you are exactly where you need to be. As the quiet embrace of the mist fades into the soft glow of twilight, you find yourself standing in a vast garden. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming jasmine, petals sparkling faintly like dew caught in the last rays of a fading sun. The garden feels timeless, neither alive nor dead, suspended in a delicate balance between day and night. You walk slowly along a winding stone path, smooth beneath your feet but warm, as if the stones themselves hold the memory of countless footsteps long past. The plants beside you sway gently, though no breeze stirs the air. Flowers bloom in impossible colors, some you recognize, others strange and shimmering, their petals translucent and glowing faintly. Ahead, a large tree towers, its branches reaching out like open arms. Its bark is rough but warm to the touch, and nestled among its roots is a weathered bench, inviting you to rest. You sit, feeling the solid weight of the bench grounding you even as the garden seems to pulse softly with an unseen life. The ticking has returned, slow and steady, like a heartbeat resonating through the earth itself. From the shadows, a figure approaches, cloaked in shifting mists, face obscured but eyes bright and steady. The figure's voice is a gentle murmur. This garden is the place where forgotten dreams grow. Each flower a memory, each leaf a whisper. You feel the truth of the words in your chest, a knowing that this garden holds pieces of yourself you have lost or left behind. The figure gestures to the flowers, and you reach out, brushing a hand over petals cool and soft, tingling with silent energy. You may gather what you need here, the voice says. Or simply rest. The garden will hold you. As you sit in the quiet company of the figure and the glowing blossoms, a sense of peace settles deeply within you. The world beyond fades, and only the gentle pulse of the ticking and the soft rustle of leaves remain. Time stretches and blurs, a calm current carrying you gently deeper into the dream. You remain seated on the weathered bench beneath the sprawling tree, the soft glow from the strange flowers casting flickering patterns of light and shadow across your skin. The garden breathes quietly around you, the faint rustle of leaves, a subtle hum like distant music, and the steady pulse of the ticking weaving through the air. The mist-cloaked figure lingers nearby, silent and patient, a guardian of this liminal place. You feel neither fear nor urgency, only a gentle invitation to explore the depths of your own forgotten spaces. Your fingers trail over a cluster of blossoms that shimmer with an inner light, colors shifting between pale lavender, deep indigo, and warm amber. They pulse softly beneath your touch, as if responding to something within you. Suddenly, one flower detaches itself, drifting slowly into your palm. The petals are impossibly delicate, translucent like stained glass, and as you hold it, a flood of sensations washes over you, memories half remembered, feelings once buried, moments both joyful and sorrowful. Images flicker in your mind's eye, laughter under a summer sky, whispered secrets in a dimly lit room, a face blurred by tears and time. The flower's glow intensifies, bathing your hand in a warm light. You sense it is a key, not to a door of wood or stone, but to the hidden chambers within yourself. The ticking slows to a heartbeat as the garden around you deepens, shadows lengthening, stars beginning to shimmer faintly in the twilight above. The figure steps forward, voice soft and sure. When you are ready, this garden will open a path, a door not seen but felt. You breathe deeply, feeling the weight and warmth of the glowing flower in your hand, the quiet promise of discovery ahead. Time folds gently around you, and you close your eyes, ready to follow wherever the garden's secret leads. You rise from the bench, still holding the glowing flower, its light pulsing softly like a heartbeat in your palm. The garden around you feels alive, every leaf and petal humming with quiet energy. As you walk along the winding stone path, the plants seem to part gently before you, guiding your steps. The mist-cloaked figure follows silently, a steady presence in this surreal space. Ahead, where the path bends beneath an ancient archway woven from flowering vines, you see it, a door unlike any other. It is not made of wood or metal but seems carved from the very air itself, shimmering with faint patterns that ripple like water. The door is closed, but as you approach, the glowing flower in your hand pulses brighter, and you feel a deep certainty that this is the door meant for you. You reach out and touch the rippling surface. It feels cool and fluid, like dipping your fingers into a still pond. With a soft ripple, the door opens, revealing a passage bathed in pale, shifting light. You step through. The garden falls away behind you, replaced by a long hallway lined with softly glowing orbs, each containing a flickering memory, a smile, a tear, a whispered word. The ticking resumes, slow and steady, marking the rhythm of this place suspended between dream and waking. You move forward, the glowing flower lighting your way, and realize the journey through this liminal space has only just begun. The hallway stretches endlessly ahead, its walls lined with softly glowing orbs suspended like fragile lanterns in the dim light. Each orb holds a flickering image, a laugh shared long ago, the touch of a hand you barely remember, a fragment of a conversation half forgotten. The glowing flower in your hand pulses gently, its light weaving with the soft illumination from the orbs, casting gentle shadows that ripple across the smooth floor. You move slowly, reaching out to touch one of the orbs. As your fingers brush its surface, the image inside sharpens, a moment of childhood innocence, sunlight streaming through a window, laughter echoing in a garden. A soft voice whispers from the shadows, "These are the pieces of your story, the fragments that shape you." You glance back, but the doorway behind you has vanished, replaced by an endless expanse of twilight mist. Each step forward brings new memories, some sweet, some tinged with sadness, all wrapped in the soft glow of the orbs. The ticking beats steadily, a slow, comforting rhythm that steadies your heart. As you walk deeper into the corridor, you sense the presence of something waiting at its end, a door, a revelation, or perhaps a new beginning. The flower's glow brightens, steady and sure, guiding you onward. You approach the faint outline of a door shimmering softly in the distance, its surface shifting like liquid moonlight. The corridor around you hums quietly, the orbs casting elongated shadows that dance with the rhythm of the ticking heartbeats still echoing faintly. The glowing flower in your hand pulses gently, syncing with your own breath and the slow beat of the ticking. You feel a calm resolve settling within you, steady and warm. As you near the door, the air thickens with quiet expectation. The whispering voices from the orbs fade to silence, giving way to a profound stillness. Your hand reaches out, fingertips brushing the cool, shimmering surface. The door ripples and parts like a curtain, revealing a room bathed in soft, ethereal light. Inside, the walls are lined with books, volumes bound in faded leather, their titles worn but inviting. A large window looks out onto an endless horizon where sky and sea blend into a seamless twilight. You step inside and the door closes gently behind you, the corridor and its memories slipping away like a dream dissolving at dawn. The ticking now is just a soft murmur, like a distant lullaby. A voice, warm and familiar, speaks from the quiet. This room holds the story of you, past, present, and all that might be. You breathe deeply, feeling the weight and comfort of this place, ready to turn the pages and discover what lies within. You move slowly among the shelves, fingers brushing over the spines of countless books, each one containing a chapter of your life, memories, choices, and forgotten moments. The leather bindings are soft, worn, as if held and cherished over centuries. The air smells faintly of old paper, ink, and something sweet, like honey mingled with rain. The light here is gentle and warm, filtering through the vast window that stretches from floor to ceiling, where the twilight horizon shimmers endlessly. You select a book at random. The cover is blank, but as you open it, words begin to form on the pages, words that feel written just for you. Scenes unfold, a child playing beneath a tree, laughter shared with a friend, a quiet moment of sadness and reflection. You realize you are not just reading but reliving these moments, each one a thread weaving the tapestry of your being. The ticking sound returns, soft and steady, a heartbeat echoing within the stillness. A whisper brushes past your ear. To understand yourself, you must embrace every page, the light and the shadow, the joy and the pain. You close the book gently, feeling a new calm settle inside you. Beyond the window, the horizon shifts, day dissolving into night, and back again in an endless dance. You feel ready to continue, turning the pages, stepping deeper into this room of memories and possibilities. The book rests comfortably in your hands, its pages warm and familiar. As you turn each page, the words shimmer softly, sometimes forming images that float above the paper like wisps of smoke, memories made tangible. A quiet narrative unfolds, telling of moments you thought forgotten, a hand held in the rain, a whispered apology, the sound of laughter echoing down an empty street. Each memory is tinged with emotion, some sweet, some bittersweet, but all part of your story. The room around you breathes gently, shadows stretching and contracting with the rhythm of the ticking heartbeat. The vast window frames the endless horizon, where twilight waves ripple softly under a sky painted with stars just beginning to glow. You feel yourself growing lighter, as if the stories you hold are lifting a weight from your shoulders. The whisper returns, soft and sure. To move forward, you must hold all parts of yourself, the light and the darkness, in balance. A breeze stirs, rustling the pages and carrying with it a faint scent of jasmine and rain. The room seems to pulse with quiet life, a sanctuary built from memory and hope. You close the book with a gentle sigh, feeling calm, whole, and ready. Ahead, a doorway appears, glowing faintly in the twilight, a path forward. You rise and step toward it, heart steady, mind quiet, ready to continue the journey through this dreamscape of your own making. You step toward the softly glowing doorway, its edges shimmering like liquid silver. The air here is cool and filled with a faint scent of rain on warm earth, grounding you gently as you prepare to cross this threshold. With a deep breath, you pass through the door and find yourself in a vast, quiet room. The walls are smooth and pale, illuminated by an unseen light that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. In the center, a single chair faces an enormous window stretching from floor to ceiling. Beyond it, the horizon fades into a gentle swirl of colors, pinks and purples melting into blues and golds, like a sky caught between night and dawn. You sit in the chair, the ticking now a distant, steady heartbeat matching your own. The room is filled with silence, but it feels warm, safe. A soft voice murmurs, "Here, time slows and all things are possible." You are safe to rest, to dream, to simply be. Outside the window, shadows shift subtly, as if the world itself breathes with the pulse of the ticking. Your eyes grow heavy, the quiet calm wrapping around you like a soft blanket. The edges of the room begin to blur and fade. You close your eyes, sinking deeper into the peaceful embrace of this place, ready to drift fully into sleep. As your eyes close, the room dissolves into a soft haze of colors, muted blues, gentle lavenders, and pale golds blending like watercolor. The ticking heartbeat fades further, becoming part of the quiet hum that wraps around you. You feel weightless, floating effortlessly in this endless space between waking and dreaming. Shapes drift past, faint outlines of trees, distant lights twinkling softly, shadows that seem to pulse with life. A calm presence lingers nearby, neither seen nor heard, but felt, a guardian of this delicate threshold. You breathe slowly, deeply, each inhale drawing peace, each exhale releasing tension. The quiet deepens. Time slows to nothing. And in this stillness, you surrender fully to the gentle pull of sleep, safe within the endless quiet beyond. The soft colors swirl slowly around you, like ink dissolving in water. You float, weightless and calm, through a space that feels both endless and intimately close, a quiet expanse suspended between moments. Your breathing slows further, matching the subtle rhythm of the dim light that pulses softly like a heartbeat. Faint whispers, neither words nor sounds, brush past like silk threads, carrying comfort and quiet reassurance. You sense a distant melody, like a lullaby half remembered, winding its way through the gentle shadows. It wraps around you, a soothing presence that invites surrender. The boundaries between you and the world dissolve completely. There is only this peaceful drift, a quiet letting go. The last thing you feel before the dream deepens is a tender warmth, as if the night itself is holding you close. The gentle melody fades into silence, a silence so profound it feels like a soft embrace. You float effortlessly, wrapped in a quiet warmth that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The faint shimmer of light dims to a soothing glow, casting no shadows, only gentle illumination. Your breath is slow and even, each inhale drawing peace, each exhale releasing any lingering tension. Shapes begin to dissolve into formless light, and the edges of your awareness soften like waves lapping against a shore. You feel held, protected, as if cradled by the very fabric of the dream. A whisper floats on the still air, "Here, there is nothing to fear. Only rest." The ticking heartbeat fades completely now, replaced by the soft rhythm of your own calm pulse. Your eyelids grow heavier, the quiet deepening into stillness. And with a final, gentle sigh, you drift fully into sleep, safe, serene, and whole. The silence deepens around you, like a soft velvet curtain drawn close. Light dims to the faintest glow, like stars blinking in the vast night. You feel weightless, as if floating in a gentle current that carries you ever onward, downward into the quiet. Your breath is slow, measured, the rhythm of peace settling deep into your bones. The world dissolves into a blur of soft shapes and colors, fading gently into darkness that feels like home. A gentle voice whispers close, like the rustle of leaves in a calm wind, "You are safe. You are whole. You are resting now." With a final breath, your mind loosens, the last tether to waking fading like morning mist. You cross the final threshold, the place where dream and sleep become one. And there, in the soft embrace of nothingness, you drift peacefully, carried by the quiet. You sink gently into a space without edges, where silence is soft and infinite. The weight of the world, the pull of thoughts, all dissolve like morning mist under a rising sun. In this emptiness, there is no time, only a calm vastness, warm and comforting. The last flickers of sound fade into nothingness, leaving only a deep, steady stillness. You are held in this quiet space, free from worry or care. The boundary between dream and sleep vanishes entirely. And with a sigh as soft as a breeze, you float deeper, fully embraced by rest. You float in the vast quiet, embraced by the soft emptiness, the stillness wrapping around you like a gentle tide. Time has lost meaning here, breath, heartbeat, and thought meld into one endless moment. But beneath the calm surface, something stirs, a faint whisper, too soft to catch at first, like the flutter of a moth's wing. It rises slowly, weaving through the silence, a voice almost lost between the spaces of sleep and wakefulness. You strain to listen. The whisper becomes a word, fragmented and half-remembered, then a phrase, "Remember." The gentle warmth around you flickers, the vast quiet shudders softly. A faint glimmer of light appears in the distance, fragile and hesitant. It pulses, beckoning, like a heartbeat calling you back. You want to follow it, to understand, but the peace urges you to stay, to rest. The whisper returns, more insistent this time, "Remember who you are. Before it's too late." The light pulses stronger now, trembling on the edge of visibility. You realize the journey isn't over, it's shifting. And somewhere just beyond the gentle darkness, something waits. The soft glow pulses steadily, a beacon in the vast silence. You feel drawn toward it, each pulse echoing like a heartbeat through the empty space. The whisper lingers in your mind, urging, "Remember. Before it's too late." You move slowly, weightless, drifting closer to the flickering light. Around you, the silence hums with a strange tension, like the calm before a storm or the breath held before a secret is revealed. The light grows brighter, revealing faint shapes in its glow, a door, slightly cracked, with the same spiral symbol you've seen before etched faintly into its surface. Your hand reaches out, trembling slightly as it nears the door. The moment your fingers brush the cold frame, the whisper becomes a voice, clear, urgent, yet still gentle. Behind this door lies what you seek and what you fear. The air thickens, the peaceful quiet giving way to something charged with quiet power. You hesitate, heart steady but mind racing. The door waits, silent and expectant. And as the light pulses once more, you realize there is no turning back now. Your fingers rest lightly on the doorframe, cool and smooth beneath your touch. The spiral symbol glows faintly, as if breathing with its own quiet life. The whisper lingers, weaving through your mind like a delicate thread, what you seek and what you fear. The glowing light from beyond the door spills into the quiet space, casting long shadows that seem to dance and shift, almost alive. You feel the weight of countless memories pressing softly against your chest, heavy but familiar. Taking a steady breath, you push the door open. Inside is a room bathed in soft silver light. The air hums with stillness and expectation. In the center, a mirror stands tall, its surface rippling like water. You step forward and gaze into the mirror. At first, your reflection is clear, calm, peaceful, almost asleep. But slowly, the image shifts. Faces appear behind yours, some kind, some strange, some shadowed by sorrow. Scenes flicker in the glass, moments you've lived and those you've forgotten, fears you buried deep, hopes waiting to bloom. A voice echoes softly from the mirror. To move forward, you must face what lies within. You realize this is no ordinary reflection. It is a gateway, a portal to your own hidden depths. The ticking returns, slow and steady, matching your heartbeat. The choice stands before you: confront the unknown within, or turn away and remain in the quiet dream. Your breath catches as the faces and scenes ripple within the mirror, swirling like mist across the glass. They beckon, urging you to look deeper, to step beyond the surface calm into the tangled web beneath. You reach out slowly, fingertips brushing the cool, fluid surface. The mirror ripples like water, pulling you in, not with force, but with a gentle insistence. A quiet voice whispers, only by facing yourself can you unlock what lies beyond. Your reflection fades, replaced by a swirling vortex of memories, moments of joy, fear, loss, and hope, all spinning softly around a core of light. You feel your heart steady with resolve, the ticking rising into a clear, steady rhythm. With a final breath, you step forward, into the mirror, into the depths of yourself. The world shifts, colors blending, shadows swirling, and the dream deepens. As you step through the mirror, the world dissolves into liquid light. You find yourself floating gently in a river that glows softly beneath a twilight sky. The water moves slowly, carrying you forward without effort, its surface shimmering with flickering images, memories and moments drifting past like lanterns on the current. Some memories are bright and warm, laughter shared beneath a golden sun, the touch of a gentle hand, the scent of rain on dry earth. Others are shadowed and soft, quiet regrets, forgotten fears, moments left unspoken. You reach out, and the water ripples under your fingertips, sending waves that echo through the dream. A calm voice speaks, neither near nor far. To move beyond, you must carry all these with you, the light and the shadow, the joy and the sorrow. Only then will the path unfold. The river widens ahead, flowing toward a distant, glowing shore where a faint outline of a door shimmers beneath the stars. You feel the ticking, a heartbeat steady and sure, guiding you onward. You float deeper into the current, ready to face what waits beyond the shore. The glowing shore approaches slowly, the gentle current carrying you closer to its soft, shimmering sands. The air here feels different, thicker with quiet anticipation, yet still wrapped in calm. You step onto the shore, the ground warm beneath your feet, the light all around soft and inviting. Before you stands the door, its surface alive with shifting patterns of light and shadow, the same spiral symbol, now pulsing gently, like a heartbeat. The ticking grows louder, steady and sure, echoing inside your chest. You reach out, fingers trembling slightly as you touch the door. It is cool and smooth, yet it seems to hum with quiet power. A voice speaks softly, this door leads to the place where all paths converge. The final choice awaits. You pause, heart steady but mind swirling. You feel the weight of the journey behind you, the garden, the memories, the whispers, and the pull of the unknown beyond the door. With a deep breath, you prepare to step forward, knowing that whatever lies ahead, you will carry the calm of this dream with you. Your hand lingers on the door's cool surface, the pulse of the spiral symbol matching the steady beat of your heart. Slowly, the door begins to part, sliding open with a soft, whispering sound, revealing a space beyond unlike any you have seen before. Inside, a vast chamber stretches out, a place both familiar and strange. The floor is polished stone, reflecting the pale, diffuse light that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere. The walls ripple faintly, as if alive, shimmering with images, faces, places, memories, all interwoven in a delicate dance. At the center of the chamber stands a figure, neither fully seen nor unseen, a presence that feels like the sum of all you are and all you might become. The ticking slows, becoming a deep, resonant pulse, vibrating through the chamber and into your bones. The figure's voice is soft but carries weight. You have journeyed far through the dream, gathering pieces of yourself. Now, the final choice awaits. To step forward is to embrace all that you are, and all that you have yet to be. A calm certainty settles over you, the surreal quiet wrapping around you like a cloak. The chamber waits. The moment is yours. You step forward into the chamber, the polished floor cool beneath your feet. The shimmering walls pulse gently with shifting images, faces and places, fragments of memory and possibilities swirling in soft light. The figure before you is vague, yet unmistakably familiar. It seems to breathe with the rhythm of your own heartbeat, a presence woven from both shadow and light. You have traveled the dreamscape, collecting pieces of yourself lost and found, the voice intones softly. Now you stand at the crossroads, the place where all paths converge. You feel no fear, only a quiet calm, as if this moment was always meant to be. The figure extends a hand, glowing faintly. To move forward, you must choose, embrace the known or step into the unknown. Both are part of you. Your own hand rises slowly, reaching toward the glowing palm. A surge of warmth spreads through you, the ticking now a steady, comforting pulse. The chamber hums softly, waiting. Your fingers brush the glowing hand, warmth radiating like sunlight filtered through leaves. The chamber hums with soft energy, the shifting images on the walls swirling gently as if holding their breath. The voice echoes softly, to embrace the known is to accept all you have been, the memories, the dreams, the quiet moments of rest. To step into the unknown is to welcome change, growth, and the mysteries yet to come. You feel the pulse of the ticking growing stronger, a heartbeat steady and sure beneath your skin. Your vision softens as you realize this is not a moment of fear, but a profound peace and acceptance. Slowly, your hand closes around the glowing palm, and the chamber fills with a warm light that feels like a gentle sunrise. The figure smiles, a smile full of understanding and hope. You have chosen well. The path ahead is yours to walk, with calm, with courage, and with rest. The light deepens, folding you gently into its embrace. Your breath slows, the heartbeat ticking steady, steady. And you feel ready to drift fully into sleep, carrying this quiet strength with you. The warm light envelopes you like a soft, endless dawn. It flows through every fiber of your being, settling into your bones, your breath, your heartbeat. The chamber around you dissolves slowly into shimmering threads of light, weaving a quiet cocoon. The ticking fades into a distant, peaceful murmur, like waves washing gently onto a silent shore. You feel completely at rest, cradled by the vast calm that surrounds you. The whisper returns, soft as a sigh. Remember, you are the dreamer, and the dream is yours to shape. As the light dims to a gentle glow, you sense a door closing somewhere far away, but also another door, a faint glimmer on the horizon, just out of reach, waiting. The dream does not end, it waits, patiently, quietly, for when you are ready to return. And with a deep, peaceful breath, you drift fully into sleep.
They say the ocean remembers what we forget. It does not keep track of time in years or minutes, but in the weight of what we never said. It remembers in pressure, in pull, in the way your feet sink into the sand when you stand too still. Every wave is a breath withheld, every tide a question asked in a language too old for words. Some places are known for beauty, others for ruin, but there are places, hidden, quiet, found mostly by accident or desperation, where the sea becomes something else entirely, a listener. And if you speak aloud in such a place, even if you think no one is around, something will answer. This is the story of such a place, and of someone who went there thinking she had nothing left to say. Her name is Mara, a woman frayed at the edges, burned out, half-written. She boarded a nameless bus heading toward a town that should not exist, one without clocks, without boats, without reason, a place called Sea Cleft. She wasn't chasing peace, she was escaping noise, but the ocean there didn't offer silence, it offered remembrance. Mara came to write, to forget, but the shoreline had its own story to tell. It began with a whisper, soft, almost kind, a voice she had not heard in years. Closer, it said. She should have turned back. Everyone does the first time. But some people, some truths, cannot help but step into the tide. And that's when it began. the unmaking, the remembering. She saw things that had been buried in the undertow of her own mind, a face behind a windshield, a shell spinning where a heart should be, a city of salt beneath the waves, and a door that opened not into rooms, but into grief, layered and patient, ancient and personal. What the ocean showed her was not horror, not exactly. It was truth, the kind of truth we lock behind our ribs and convince ourselves we've outgrown, the kind of truth that whispers even when we sleep. And slowly the sea asked something of her, not with force but with inevitability. It asked her to remember, to confess, to descend, to return. This story is not about monsters in the deep. Though there are shapes that slither and blink in places light should never reach, it is not about hauntings, though ghosts do appear, if only in mirrors. It is not about death. It is about what we carry with us long after the dying ends. It's about the things we bury, inside ourselves, inside others, the things we hide behind long drives, unread messages, polite silences, and overworked days. It's about how the sea does not forgive. It does not forget. But sometimes, if you listen, if you truly hear, it lets you speak back. Mara's story is one of return, of walking back through the tide and into the memory that made her. And what she finds is not punishment, not salvation, but something in between. Something as soft and cruel as a lullaby, as warm and merciless as sunset, as honest as salt. This is a story about love twisted by time, about guilt not as a sentence but as an anchor, about how we drown long before we stop breathing, and how sometimes the only way out is through. So if you've ever stood by the water at dusk, listening to nothing and hearing too much, this story is for you. If you've ever lost someone and didn't know if you were grieving them or grieving the version of you that existed when they were still alive, this story is for you. If you've ever wished you could forget and feared what might return if you did, then listen, because the tide is coming in, and it knows your name. They say the ocean speaks at sunset, not in waves or wind, but in whispers, low, deliberate, and just barely louder than your breath if you're standing alone at the shoreline, with the sun half drowned in the horizon. Locals know not to listen, not too closely, not too long, just enough to hear the hush of foam and turn back before the tide changes its mind. But Mara was not a local. She arrived on a bus that didn't have a number, just a flaking sign that read "Sea Cleft, last stop." The driver didn't speak. The door hissed open, and Mara stepped into salt-thick air that seemed to press against her thoughts like a damp cloth. She had a week, 7 days to write something that might save her job, her name, her dignity. The editor hadn't said those things aloud, but she heard it between the lines of his email. Get out of the city, clear your head, come back when your stories stop bleeding. So she came to Sea Cleft, a fishing town with no boats, a population of 208, if the welcome sign could be believed, and a silence that clung like barnacles. The innkeeper was pale, and his smile came a second too late. The walls of her rented cottage curved slightly inward, as though the house was used to storms and still flinched at calm. It was on the third evening that she heard it, the whisper. She was barefoot in the sand, the sky sliced orange and purple, the tide curling like a breathing lung. The sound reached her, not from behind, not around, but within the space in front of her, like words exhaled between wave and air. Closer. She froze. There was no one on the beach, no breeze. The water was glass, catching the last gasp of sun in its mirrored throat. She stepped forward, only once, and it whispered again, "We've been waiting." She left after that, didn't run, didn't panic, but her skin prickled in places she didn't know could feel fear. And when she closed the door to the cottage behind her, the hinges let out a sigh like a held breath escaping. She didn't sleep well. Her dreams were full of colors that didn't exist, of hands made of coral and fishbone tapping gently on her window. The next day, the town was different, not visibly, just off. The cafe chairs had been rearranged. The lighthouse no longer blinked. A gull hovered mid-flight, longer than gravity should allow. And when she passed the newsstand, the top headline read, "Local woman returns to the shoreline. Tide expects her." No paper below it, just the headline. Mara. The whisper slid across the surface of the water like an oar through ink. She stood ankle-deep now, shoes abandoned on the sand behind her, her toes slowly sinking into the cold grit. The waves didn't crash, they leaned, touched her legs with reverent patience, like they had all the time in the world. The sky was nearly gone, just a red band now, bleeding into purple-black. No stars yet, no moon, no sound except the breath of the ocean. And the voice, "You remember." She didn't speak, because she did, not clearly, not in detail, but somewhere beneath the excuses and sleepless nights and broken wine glasses and half-sent messages, she remembered. The cold metal of the car, the streetlight turning green, the way his laugh had cracked when he called her name, before the crunch of... Mara's knees buckled. The water caught her, didn't resist, didn't drag, just held her. "You brought him here." She didn't ask how it knew. She didn't need to. Because when the ocean whispers at sunset, it doesn't ask. It reminds. Behind her, the beach was no longer empty. Not quite. Figures stood in the sand, still, unmoving. Shadows shaped like people, featureless, watching. One lifted its hand, waved. A child's silhouette. She turned sharply, too fast. The water lapped at her mouth. The salt tasted wrong, not briny, not natural. It tasted like sleep, and something underneath it. "Come deeper." The voice was no longer soft. It had weight now, command. It pressed against her spine, not forcing, not pulling, but expecting. The water rose, faster than it should have. Knees, waist, chest. The tide was wrong. The tide was listening. Mara turned back to the shore. Gone. The beach, the cottage lights, the sky, gone. In their place, dark, but not empty. Something blinked in the deep, then another. Eyes. Dozens. Watching. One closer than the rest. Too close. Mara tried to breathe, found she no longer needed to. Not here. Not anymore. "He waits below." Her voice returned, not in her throat, but in her thoughts. "Eli?" The eyes vanished, replaced by a door, not real, not wooden. A door made of coral and sea glass and netting pulled from the bones of ships. It pulsed like a wound. "Step through." Her hands moved without her. The door opened without sound. And on the other side, Eli, or what was left of him. He smiled without lips. His hair floated like a crown of kelp. His chest was hollow, and inside it spun a shell like a heart. His eyes were wrong, but he knew her. "You finally came." Mara stepped through the door. The sea didn't push back. It welcomed. The space beyond was not a room, nor a cave. It was a memory drowned in salt and stretched into eternity. A hallway lined with air bubbles that reflected her life, frame by aching frame. She saw herself at age 8, letting a crab pinch her finger just to feel something. At 16, standing alone on a pier, watching fireworks that never exploded. And then, Eli. In every bubble. Laughing. Talking. Bleeding. In one, he offered her a cigarette. In another, he wept in a bathtub full of his father's whiskey. In another, he reached for her through the windshield before the world turned into white noise and shattered glass. Each version cracked as she passed, the surface of each bubble spidering outward like ice underfoot, until the memories burst silently behind her. Eli floated in the center of it all, hands folded like a priest, his smile a stitch of calm sewn into too tight skin. You were always going to come here. His voice didn't ripple the water. It grew in it, like coral, like mold. Mara felt her throat tighten. You're not him. No, he said, but I remember him perfectly. His body drifted forward, feet never moving. You tried to forget, but forgetting doesn't work here. Around them, the sea began to pulse with a heartbeat not her own. Boom, pause, boom. A rhythm like grief, like footsteps following her down a hallway she'd never walked. The hallway began to narrow, the light dimmed, and the ocean whispered again, not from a single voice this time, but from every angle, every molecule, every ghost that had ever touched water. Confess. She closed her eyes and saw it. Not just the accident, not just the blood and sirens and the hollow sound his skull made against the passenger window, but the seconds after. The silence she sat in, the way she touched his shoulder and felt nothing. No scream, no tears, only relief, because now he couldn't leave her first. Eli tilted his head. There it is. The water constricted around her like a noose tightening. She choked, not on salt, on truth. Do you think grief is payment? He asked. Do you think it ends the debt? His hollow chest began to spin, the shell inside grinding against his ribs. The entire ocean responded. Boom, boom, boom. And then, from deep in the blackness below, it rose slowly. Not out of haste, not out of hunger, out of certainty. From beneath the horizonless black, past the bones of whales and rusted anchors, it came. A shape too large for eyes to hold, too old to move quickly. It dragged the ocean with it, pulling reality like silk across barnacled teeth. Its body coiled without end. Its scales were not flesh, but reflections, shining with the memories of every soul that had drowned with secrets in their lungs. Mara couldn't breathe now. Not because the water pressed against her lungs, but because her guilt did. The weight of it soaked into her bones like seawater into stone. And Eli? Eli watched with a calm not born of peace, but surrender. You could have stayed. You could have died with me. His face was no longer familiar. It flickered like a poorly tuned channel, mouth twitching between smiles and sobs, his voice layered, echoing with the whispers of every name the sea had swallowed. But you left, and now we remember. The thing below opened something that could not be called a mouth, and the whispers poured from it in thousands of voices. You made us, you made us, you made us. Mara tried to move, but the water had turned viscous, heavy, like honey and ink and teeth. The door behind her, the coral-wound arch that had led here, was gone. Only depth remained, and the sea said, "You're ready." Suddenly, everything snapped. The hallway of memories shattered like glass, and Mara was falling. No, not falling, being rewound. The ocean pulled her backward, not toward escape, but to a beginning, to the moment before. She landed on sand, soft, warm, red with sunset. Her breath rushed back in. She was kneeling at the edge of the water, palms pressed into the shore. It was day 1. The beach was empty, the water calm, her shoes beside her, and from the cliffs above, she could see it. The bus. It hadn't left yet. And on the sand, a few feet away, the slip of newspaper fluttered in the breeze. Same headline. Local woman returns to the shoreline. Tide expects her. She picked it up. The back had changed. A note in her own handwriting. You won't escape until you confess it out loud. And mean it. The whisper came again, gentle now, familiar. One more chance, Mara. Behind her, the tide began to rise. The sand burned under Mara's knees, not from heat, but from memory. As the tide curled around her ankles, the water shimmered with 1,000 things she hadn't said. Words she had buried in the soft spaces of her mind and labeled regret, without ever opening the box. She gripped the newspaper in her hand until it turned to pulp. The ink bled into her palm, the letters rearranged as they melted, reforming one final message. If you lie again, we'll take your mouth next. The ocean doesn't ask for answers, it asks for the truth. She rose to her feet. The shoreline was empty, but she felt the audience watching, just beyond the haze of sunset, the shapes, the witnesses, the other dreamers caught in tides of their own making. One more chance, the voice had said. Her voice broke when she finally used it. I left him, she said, her throat raw. Not in the car. Before that. I left him months ago, in my mind. I just never told him. The water stilled. She took a step in. The tide rose to her calves. I knew he was breaking, she said. He needed someone, but she swallowed hard. I didn't want to be the one to carry him anymore. The horizon flickered, and from the far distance, something moved beneath the waves. Not the vast creature, not the chorus of drowned regrets. Just Eli. He stood ankle deep across the water, facing her. Whole. Alive. Sunlight catching in his hair, the version of him that existed in every picture she kept in boxes under her bed. The version before the spiral, before the bruises, before the silences. But his eyes held the depth of the ocean, and he spoke. Then say it. Her lips trembled. I let you die. The wind dropped. The sea pulled back just a little. I could have pulled you out, or stayed, or screamed, but I didn't. The air filled with the sound of something exhaling, like a storm choosing not to arrive. Eli stepped closer. His bare feet didn't disturb the water. Thank you, he said, and he began to dissolve. Not melt, not vanish. He scattered. Like sand caught in sunlight, his form blew away into the salt air. Pieces of him floating upward instead of down, drifting into the glowing band of the sun. The sea calmed. The sky softened. Mara dropped to her knees. The waves kissed her wrists, gentle. The desert breathed. That was the first thing Mara noticed, as the last shimmer of ocean folded into heat. She stood on a shore that no longer existed, staring out across a plain of white salt that stretched into nothing. No clouds, no sun, just a sky of static gray like the TV fuzz between dreams. She turned back to where the bus had been. Gone. No cliff, no road, no familiar anything. Only salt. And in the center of the sky, where the sun should have been, was a hole. Round and black. A pupil in a blind eye. And it blinked. She walked, not because she chose to, but because there was nothing else to do. Her feet crunched with each step, tiny fractures spidering out behind her like the desert didn't want to hold her weight. After the 5th mile, the landscape began to change. Not forward, beneath. The salt began to rise in delicate shapes, spires, ribs, branches of crystal. She didn't notice the pattern until she'd already crossed its threshold. The ground beneath her was no longer solid. It was sculpted. Tiles made of compressed shell and coral bone. The remains of something vast and religious. She stood at the gates of the Salt Cathedral. Its spires grew up from the ground in impossible angles, threading into the gray sky like needles sewing a wound. No doors, no guards, no welcome. But it was open. It had always been open. The whisper followed her here. You confessed. Now you must remember. Inside it was enormous. A vaulted hollow that defied physics. The walls shimmered with inscriptions, not carved, but grown. Salt veins twisted into letters in no language she knew, but every phrase carried weight, like meaning had sunk into her body without consent. And at the center of the cathedral was the altar, a pool, still, clear, circular, perfectly round, like a pupil, or a lens, or a mouth. She stepped toward it. Her reflection did not follow. Instead, the pool showed a room, familiar, her old apartment, a flickering lamp, that awful green chair, a pair of shoes kicked half under the coffee table, and the couch, Eli asleep on it, alive, real, breathing. She staggered back. The pool did not ripple. You left more than guilt, the whisper said. You left yourself. Her own voice echoed from nowhere. If I could go back, would you? The sea asked. Yes. The cathedral exhaled. Cracks spidered across the floor. The pool deepened. And without waiting, without thinking, Mara stepped in. There was no splash, no fall, only gravity turning sideways. She opened her eyes. She was on the couch, back in the apartment breathed around her. Stale air thick with unsaid words. Eli sat on the worn couch, his eyes holding shadows Mara couldn't quite reach. He looked alive, too alive for this place that was neither memory nor present. You came back, he said softly, voice threading through the silence. She swallowed. The weight of the ocean settled in her chest. I have to. Outside the window, the sky rippled, the same black pupil from the Salt Cathedral, blinking slow and wide. The Watcher, Mara whispered. Eli nodded, eyes distant. It sees everything we try to hide. The whisper returned, not a sound, but a feeling curling in the corners of her mind. Remember what you left behind, what you buried, what you never dared say. Her hands trembled. I don't know if I'm ready. You don't have to be, just honest. The walls around them blurred, folding and twisting until Mara was kneeling again at the edge of the cathedral's altar pool. Her reflection shimmered, fragmented, fading, until the surface revealed a new image. A cracked photo of her younger self, smiling but alone. A silver key slipped from the corner of the picture, sinking silently into the water's depths. "The key to forgetting," the whisper said, low and relentless. Mara's breath caught. The ocean's memory was vast, but so was its patience. If she dared unlock the past, maybe, just maybe, she could finally begin to forgive. The cathedral pulsed, salt crystals humming with light and shadow. Her journey was far from over. The silence after the whisper was heavy, filled with the weight of things unspoken. Mara knelt by the pool, the surface still as glass, the key lost in the depths below. Her fingers hovered just above the water, the chill seeping into her skin like a warning. The apartment, her memory, flickered again, briefly pulling her back into that room with Eli before the cathedral's shadows reclaimed her. "Unlock it," the voice murmured. "Unlock what you refuse to see." Her breath hitched, thoughts swirling like the tide. She'd locked away more than guilt, more than pain. She'd locked away herself, fragments scattered in the crevices of forgotten days and sleepless nights. The key wasn't just a token, it was a promise, a door to what she had buried. Mara dipped her hand beneath the water's surface. Cold, dark, endless. Her fingertips brushed something hard, smooth and cold. The key. She gripped it tightly, feeling the weight settle deep in her palm. The pool began to ripple. Images surfaced, faces, places, moments she'd never allowed herself to remember. A broken promise whispered between two people on a cold winter night. A laugh that turned hollow, a touch that never healed. The cathedral pulsed in response, walls trembling as salt shards shimmered. "Face it," the ocean breathed, and in that moment, Mara realized the tide was not only waiting for her truth, but for her courage to finally embrace it. The water's edge blurred, the line between memory and reality fading. She stood slowly, key clenched like a lifeline. The whisper came again, soft but sure. "This is only the beginning." The Salt Cathedral's silence was a living thing, heavy, expectant, wrapped around Mara like the weight of the sea itself. The pool at its center shimmered beneath the soft glow of the salt crystals, but the surface was no longer calm. It rippled with the memories she'd just unlocked, images swirling in fractured waves. Mara held the key tight, her knuckles white, the coldness of the metal biting into her palm as if warning her to stop. But she couldn't. Not now. A voice echoed, not from the whisper, but from the space around her. It was deeper, layered, almost like the cathedral itself was speaking. "Every secret has a price." She swallowed hard, eyes fixed on the watery reflection where her younger self appeared, flickering between smiles and tears. Behind that fragile girl were shadows, the people she'd loved and lost, the moments she'd wished away. Mara stepped closer to the pool. The key pulsed softly, as if alive. With a breath that felt like drowning, she plunged her hand beneath the surface. The water was colder than anything she'd ever felt. Not just cold, but sharp, slicing through the layers of her soul. Her fingers brushed the smooth edge of a submerged door. The coral and salt of the Salt Cathedral twisted and reformed around it, a threshold that beckoned her forward. The whisper returned, this time a command. "Step through." Mara hesitated, heart hammering like a storm. But the ocean waits for no one. She grasped the key, fitting it into the lock carved of coral and bone. A deep groan echoed through the cathedral as the door slowly creaked open, spilling light and shadow like blood. Stepping through was like falling, or waking from a dream that was not her own. She found herself standing on a rocky shore beneath a bruised sky, the air thick with salt and something older, sorrow, maybe, or regret. Before her, the sea churned, wild and endless, and waiting in the waves was a figure, not Eli, but someone older, something ancient. Its eyes were endless depths, black as the space beneath the ocean's darkest trenches. Tentacles of seaweed and shadow swirled around it like a crown. It spoke, a voice both many and one, rippling like the tide itself. "You have come far, Mara." The wind carried its words, whispering through the crashing waves. Every memory is a thread, every truth a tide. You hold the key to unravel what was lost. Mara's chest tightened. She wanted to scream, to run, but her feet were rooted. "Who are you?" she asked, voice trembling. "We are the sea's memory," it said. The water embraced Mara like a cold shroud, pulling her deeper into a world where light fractured and twisted in strange currents. The shell in her hand pulsed with a heartbeat not her own, syncing with the rhythm of the ocean's endless breath. Around her, the sea shimmered with faces, ghostly, flickering, each a fragment of memory, a shard of loss. She swam without effort, her body moving through the currents as if the water itself guided her. The ancient figure lingered nearby, silent but watchful, its endless eyes reflecting the vastness of forgotten sorrow. Ahead, a cavern opened beneath the waves, an abyss of shadows and broken echoes. The scent of salt and decay thickened, and Mara felt the weight of all the stories buried in this place pressing down on her chest. Inside, the walls were alive with memories, carved not in stone, but in light and darkness. Whispers wove through the air like tangled seaweed, voices half heard and half remembered. She saw Eli again, whole, fragile, human, in moments stolen from a past she'd tried to forget. She saw the arguments, the silences, the sudden fractures that had widened between them like cracks in the ice. And then, the accident. Not just the crash, but what came after, the unbearable stillness, the guilt that had crept in like a slow tide. The sea whispered, its voice a chorus of sorrow and longing. You could not save him. Mara's throat tightened. I didn't know how. The cavern darkened. A new figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, her eyes filled with the same pain Mara carried, her hands reaching out as if to hold something lost. You are not alone in this, the figure said. We all carry the weight of what we leave behind. Mara's breath caught. The woman's face was familiar. Herself, years ago, before the fractures, before the silence. The past and present blurred. I am ready, Mara whispered. The shell in her hand flared, and the cavern brightened with the soft glow of forgiveness. The ocean's memory softened its endless chant. You have faced the depths. Now you must rise. A current lifted Mara, carrying her upward, away from the shadows and toward the surface. As she broke through the water, the salt cathedral reformed around her, salt spires gleaming like stars against the gray sky. The ancient figure watched silently, its eyes deep. The salt-cracked earth beneath Mara's feet felt impossibly dry after the cold embrace of the ocean. Each step stirred tiny clouds of dust, fragile as forgotten promises, drifting into the vast gray sky. The pupil in the sky, the blind eye, watched silently, a void that swallowed sound and light. She clutched the key tighter, its warmth a fragile tether to what she had uncovered beneath the waves. The salt cathedral spires loomed behind her, sharp and crystalline, catching the faintest flicker of fading light. Ahead, the horizon shimmered, not with water, but with heat and mirage. The desert stretched endlessly, an ocean of salt and sand, but Mara knew it was something else entirely, a place where memories were both preserved and devoured, a crucible for forgotten truths. The whisper returned, softer now, as if tired of urging. The tide moves forward, but the sea remembers all. Your path leads to where water forgets, and something else remembers. Mara's throat tightened. She wanted to ask what that meant, but the silence that followed was its own answer. She walked toward the shimmering horizon, each step heavier, the weight of confession and remembrance settling deep into her bones. As the desert heat rose in waves, shapes began to emerge, figures made of salt and shadow, faces from the memories she'd barely survived. They watched her, still and patient, waiting for her to cross the threshold. Then the ground beneath her cracked open, a jagged maw glowing with an eerie blue light. Without hesitation, Mara descended. The air grew colder, denser, filled with the scent of brine and decay. Below the salt flats, an underground cathedral unfolded, vast, dark, and dripping with stalactites that gleamed like icicles made of obsidian and salt. Here, the water had receded, but had not vanished. It pooled in vast, black mirrors, reflecting not stars, but fractured fragments of lost souls. Mara's reflection fractured as well, splitting into pieces across the dark surface. And in that darkness, a voice waited. Not gentle, not coaxing, cold, certain. "You've wandered far, Mara." The voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. "You've carried the tide inside you. But what will you do when the sea forgets?" The chamber breathed. It was not lungs that moved the air, but pressure, ancient, slow, shifting like tectonic plates beneath the sea. The walls glistened with threads of salt, stretched into veins that pulsed faintly, alive with memory. Mara stood at the edge of the black mirror pool, her reflection fractured into 3 pieces, past, present, and something that hadn't happened yet. "You've carried the tide inside you," the voice repeated, closer now. She turned. Nothing. Only the salt columns that stretched into forever, their edges flickering like mirages. She faced the mirror again. The third reflection, the one from the future, moved. It did not mimic, it watched, and then it spoke. "You've brought it too far," it said, in her own voice, only older, raw, threadbare. "The ocean forgave you, the tide released you, but this place..." Mara's throat went dry. "This place forgets." The older Mara nodded. "And forgetting isn't mercy, it's hunger." Behind her, something massive shifted in the dark. The pool rippled. A long, groaning note vibrated through the salt cathedral floor, like an ancient cello string plucked beneath the earth. A shape began to rise from the water. Not a creature, An absence, a void cut into the shape of a god. The sea had remembered. This had forgotten. No eyes, no face, no features. Just smooth, faceless salt, with arms made of fractured reflections. Where it stepped, light vanished. Mara stumbled back. "You are not meant to be here," it said. Its voice was her own, multiplied and hollowed. "You've seen too much. You've unknotted threads we sealed with silence." "I had to," she said, the key still tight in her hand. "I had to understand what I did, what I left behind. Understanding is not permitted here." It lifted a hand. A piece of her future reflection flaked away like ash. "You brought the shell," it said. "Give it, or be unmade." Mara looked down. The shell, still glowing, still pulsing, had returned to her palm, though she hadn't felt it. Its light flickered erratically now, pulsing like a panicked heartbeat. She stepped toward the creature. "If I give it, what happens?" "You forget," it said. "Truly, Ellie, the sea, the guilt, the memory, all erased." Mara dropped to her knees, arms over her head. Light and darkness spun around her in an endless spiral. The sea returned. Not water, but presence, rushing in to fill the space left by the forgetting. And at the center of it all, Eli. Not broken, not spectral. Whole, waiting. Mara rose slowly. Salt dust clung to her skin like ash, and the light was dim now, softer than before, flickering like candle flame beneath deep water. The void that had threatened to erase her was gone, its absence stitched closed by the sudden returning of memory. The broken mirror pools had melted into stillness, and in their place, a narrow path formed, a corridor of ribbed coral and faded bone, leading down, down, down. And Eli stood at the mouth of it. He didn't smile, didn't speak, just waited. She stepped toward him, her limbs moving without thought, as if the cathedral itself wanted her to reach him. Each footfall echoed, quiet, intimate, the sound of returning. When she reached him, she stopped. The space between them felt thick like old grief. "You're not really him," she said. He nodded. "No." "But you feel like him." Another nod. "Because you never really let me leave." His voice was quieter than she remembered. Not spectral now, just tired, like her, a perfect mirror. "I didn't know how to say goodbye," she whispered. "That's because you thought it meant letting go." She stared at him, eyes burning. "Doesn't it?" Eli tilted his head. "Sometimes. But sometimes it means carrying someone differently." The whisper returned, not from the cathedral, not from the sea, but from her, a memory she hadn't heard in years. "You said I was your anchor," she murmured, "the only thing keeping you from drifting." "You were," Eli said, "but anchors rust, and they can drown too." She looked down at the shell in her hand. It no longer glowed, its light had burned out. But it pulsed, still, rhythmic, alive, like a second heart. The corridor yawned open beside them, dark, silent. It called without sound. Eli gestured toward it. "This is the last door." "What's beyond it?" she asked. "Not forgetting," he said, "but something close." She didn't move. He reached out and touched her wrist, warm, solid, real. "I'm not asking you to let go," he said. "I'm asking you to live." Her eyes filled. "You weren't supposed to go," she said. "I did." "You weren't supposed to leave me behind." "I didn't." The salt cathedral began to shift, the walls trembling like breath held too long. The corridor darkened, the moment waned. She looked at him one last time and stepped forward. The air changed, no longer wet, no longer cold. The sun hung low over Sea Cleft, golden and warm, as if it had never dipped beneath the waterline. Mara stood on the bluff, the lighthouse behind her, casting a long shadow toward the sea. Wind tugged gently at her damp clothes, though the salt had dried, leaving faint white rings across her sleeves, like old maps etched on fabric. Below her, the beach curved gently into the horizon. Familiar now, but not entirely the same. The world felt quieter, not emptier, but more still, as if something had been resolved in her absence. Mara took the footpath down the slope. Each step felt heavier than it should have, not with dread, but with meaning. She was no longer walking as someone running from memory, but as someone returning to it. When she reached the sand, she paused. Her shoes were still there, right where she'd left them the first night she heard the whisper. Untouched, dry. The newspaper fluttered beside them, the same headline etched in fading ink. Local woman returns to the shoreline. Tide expects her. But now, in smaller type beneath, a new line had appeared. Tide returns something too. She bent to pick it up. The wind calmed, the gulls hushed. Behind her, the ocean whispered, not words, but a sound like breath after weeping. She turned slowly, and her heart almost stopped. There, standing at the water's edge, ankle deep in the foam, was her younger self. 8, maybe 9, barefoot, wearing the red windbreaker her mother had stitched for her after the storm. The child version of Mara bent down, picked up a spiral shell, and turned it over in her hands. Then she looked up, eyes met. Recognition bloomed between them, not confusion, not fear, just understanding. "You dropped this," the child said, holding out the shell. Her voice was small, high, but certain. Mara stepped forward. Sand shifted beneath her, cool and familiar. She reached out and accepted the shell. It no longer pulsed. It no longer burned. It was just a shell now, smooth, silent, real. The child turned, walked back into the tide, and vanished. No splash, no ripple. Only footprints slowly washing away. Mara stood there for a long time, staring into the horizon. The tide rolled in, kissed her feet, and pulled away, again and again. This time, it whispered only once. "Now, you are the tide." She smiled, not with joy, but with peace. She had not escaped the sea. She had become part of it. She turned back toward the town, toward the crooked little cottage with its sighing door, toward whatever came next. The shell in her hand hung. Sea Cleft looked different now. Not in its shape. Its buildings were still bowed inward like they'd been bracing for a storm since time began. The cafe still had 3 crooked chairs out front, and the lighthouse still leaned slightly to the left, as though whispering secrets to the sea. But the difference was in the way it saw her. Windows no longer darkened as she passed. The innkeeper, still pale and twitchy, nodded without flinching when she walked by. His too-late smile arrived right on time. The town accepted her now, not as a visitor, but as someone who had crossed the veil and returned. Not many did. She walked slowly through the streets, the shell clutched loosely in her hand. The sky above was bruised gold, and for the first time it didn't feel like the sun was drowning. It was just setting. And the whispers were quiet. They hadn't gone, but they weren't calling her anymore. They were watching. Mara made her way back to the little cottage with its weather-warped siding and fogged windows. The door creaked, but it didn't sigh. Inside, the curved walls no longer leaned inward. The house wasn't flinching anymore. Neither was she. She stood in the center of the room and opened her hand. The shell pulsed once, softly, and then cracked. A thin seam split it down the middle. Not violent, not broken, ready. She placed it gently on the floor. From within the crack, light spilled upward, blue and faint, like moonlight underwater. It expanded, slow and spectral, filling the room, not blinding, guiding. The air tasted of memory. The light shaped itself into something more, outlines of the sea, of Eli, of her younger self. But none of them spoke. They simply stood and watched. Mara stepped into the light. It passed through her like breath, and suddenly she saw everything. Every choice, every silence, every moment she'd turned away. Not just with Eli, but with herself. The things she denied, the grief she'd worn like armor, the shame she'd nurtured like a garden. The sea had whispered. The salt had shown her. The tide had taken her down, layer by layer. And now it gave her back. The light faded, leaving the room warm and real and quiet. Mara sat on the edge of the small bed, shell pieces beside her, hands empty. And yet, she had never held so much. Outside, the tide receded gently. No pull, no threat, just rhythm. She closed her eyes, and for the first time since that night on the highway, she slept without dreams. When Mara woke, the world was quiet. Not dead, not hollow, resting. Morning light filtered in through the warped window panes, catching dust motes in a slow drift. Outside, the sky had changed again. The gray that once hung like damp fabric over sea cleft was gone. In its place, a pale blue, streaked with wisps of white like brushstrokes over calm water. She rose from the bed. The shell pieces on the floor were gone. In their place lay a single feather, long, iridescent, with a shimmer like oil in sunlight. It hadn't been there before. It didn't belong to a seabird, or anything from the surface world. She picked it up, warm, vibrating slightly, as if filled with distant song. A message, a key. But this one was not for her guilt. It was for what comes next. Mara stepped outside. The streets of Seacleft were different now, though nothing had moved. People walked them. The cafe was open. A child ran past her with salt-tangled hair, laughing. No one faded into shadows. No one avoided her eyes. She passed the newsstand. The man behind it looked up. This time, he spoke. "Good morning, Mara." She paused. "You know me?" He shrugged. "We always did. We just weren't allowed to see you. Not until you came back." The newspaper headline today was different. Tide returns all things. Woman wakes the sea. Below that, no article, just a photograph. Her, standing at the water's edge, smiling. She let the feather slip between the pages, left the paper behind, and walked towards the beach. It was low tide. The shoreline stretched out like a promise, and scattered along it were objects the ocean had once taken. A shoe, a book, a rusted pocket watch, a wedding ring in a cracked glass bottle. The sea had given them back. As she walked, she noticed them all, tiny altars of sorrow returned as gifts. She didn't touch them, they weren't hers. But farther down, near the rocks where the water met the base of the cliff, something shimmered beneath a thin veil of foam. She knelt, a photograph, preserved, untouched by time or tide. Her and Eli. He was holding a fish, grinning. She had her eyes closed, laughing, wind-blown, happy. She hadn't known that photo still existed, but the sea had kept it, and now it offered it back. Mara pressed it gently to her chest. She sat there on the rocks until the tide returned and kissed her knees. But the tide no longer asked her to come closer. It no longer whispered her name. It simply acknowledged her. Mara, not a visitor, not a trespasser, one of its own. Mara walked the shoreline until the sun dipped once more into the ocean's open mouth. But now the sunset didn't bleed, it glowed. A soft surrender instead of a violent descent. The light was warmer than she remembered, golden rather than crimson, as if the horizon itself had healed. She sat on a driftwood log, bare feet in the sand, the photo of her and Eli resting on her lap. The feather had vanished, taken back by the sea, or by whatever waited just beneath its surface. She didn't need it anymore, and yet something tugged gently at her chest. Not grief, not guilt. Completion. From the shallows, foam traced runes in the sand. Spirals, loops, shapes too old to name but too familiar to fear. And the wind carried voices again. Not whispers this time. Names. Names she'd forgotten. Names she'd once buried beneath rationalizations and sleepless nights. They drifted across the beach like a slow tide. Eli, her mother, the friend she hadn't answered, the version of herself she'd abandoned when pain felt safer than healing. The sea was giving them all back, not to haunt, to honor. Behind her, footsteps approached, not rushed, not hesitant, rhythmic, familiar. She turned, the girl, her younger self, no longer alone. Behind the child came others, figures she recognized only by their echoes, her memories made flesh. Eli, smiling and whole. Her father, watching quietly from beneath a brimmed hat. Her own face, aged and peaceful, walking beside a future she hadn't lived yet. They didn't speak. They gathered around her like the tide gathers shells, gently, without ownership, only belonging. Mara stood, faced them, faced herself. "Thank you," she said, not to them, not to the sea, but to the part of her that had dared to return. They nodded, every face, and began to fade, not vanish, return, to wherever the sea kept the ones we carry too long. Only the child remained. She stepped forward, placed a shell in Mara's palm. This one was whole, smooth, light, empty. "You're ready," the girl said. Her voice was not high now, not small. It was steady. Then she turned toward the sea, and without waiting, walked into it. No splash, no pull. She became water. And the tide whispered one final time, "You have walked the memory. Now walk the world." Third story.
The sky above level 94 was painted in soft hues of parchment beige and pale turquoise, as though an artist had brushed the clouds on a worn film reel. A constant hum hung in the air, not electrical, but analog, the clicking of an unseen projector cycling through frames. Grass rolled over hills in velvet green waves, the texture too perfect to be natural, like cloth covering some vast stage. The air smelled faintly of warm milk and old dust. Ezra blinked against the morning light as he stumbled into the town square. He'd arrived the way most do, through a forgotten dream, or, perhaps, slipping between the cracks of consciousness and reality. The only sound was the babbling of the massive fountain at the square's center, spraying endless arcs of almond water into the basin below. He cupped his hands and drank deeply, letting the faintly sweet liquid wash down the dry ache in his throat. Everything around him looked handcrafted. Tiny houses with carefully tiled roofs leaned at just the slightest unnatural angle, too precise in their imperfections. The milk van nearby gleamed in the sun, its chrome smiling cow mascot painted in the rubbery style of early animation. Ezra approached it cautiously, peering through its round windows to see racks of chilled glass bottles inside, all labeled in blocky, cheerful lettering. Almond milk, for strong bones and stronger minds. A cheery jingle suddenly played from a nearby siren pole, something whimsical, like a silent cartoon about a dancing spoon and a jazz-playing cat. Ezra flinched, but the townsfolk didn't. They moved in looping, mechanical routines, waving politely, delivering milk, watering their tiny front lawns. All smiles, all jerky, like they were being controlled by an invisible stop-motion hand. No one spoke. Their mouths moved occasionally, but there was no sound. Only the music, only the ticking of the projector in the sky. "Where am I?" Ezra asked, but no one answered. He walked toward one of the homes, passing a street lamp shaped like a cartoon sunflower. A 1930s-style sedan sat at the curb, immaculately preserved, its white-walled tires resting on cobblestones that were just slightly too round. Everything was just off enough to make his skin itch. He knocked on the door of a 2-story house with a white picket fence. A smiling old woman opened it, her eyes unmoving, her mouth fixed. "Is this?" The door shut in his face. No sound, no breath. Behind him, a shadow passed overhead. Ezra turned toward the hills, catching the glint of something massive above the horizon. A floating castle, held aloft by a transparent mountain that shimmered like heat waves. It loomed in the distance, half faded like an unfinished sketch. He turned back. The sky had changed. The light dimmed slightly. The music was slowing.
A girl tugged at his sleeve. Young, maybe 11, her pigtails stiff and too perfect, her eyes glassy. "You need to hide," she whispered, her voice cracked through the silence like a needle skipping across a record. "The music's gonna stop soon." Ezra's pulse surged. Hide from what? The girl didn't answer. She only pointed at the siren pole. The speaker sputtered, skipping notes like an old record. Then, silence. And from behind the milk van, a figure unfurled. Its limbs were rubber hose long. Its mouth was wide and painted on. It waved, then it ran, straight at him. Ezra bolted. His shoes clacked against cobblestones that now felt hollow, too resonant, like running across a film set. Behind him, the animation skittered on elongated legs, arms swinging in wild arcs, its painted eyes fixed in a smile that stretched beyond expression and into madness. Each movement snapped like frames, stuttering but gaining. The girl had vanished. Ezra tore around a corner, down an alley between 2 narrow buildings, one shaped like a pie shop, the other like a dentist's office, both with pastel signs that peeled at their edges. He didn't dare look back. The air had shifted. The warmth of the artificial sun had given way to something colder, hungrier. Somewhere in the distance, the fountain continued to churn, but the rest of the town had gone still. No milkmen, no smiles, no music. Just the sound of his breath and the sickening silence behind it. Then a sound. Scritch, scritch, scritch. Ezra ducked into an open garage. Inside, a rusting sedan and a wooden cabinet stuffed with cans of food labeled in warped, looping fonts. Creamed moonbeams, dreamy beans, real sugar, He slammed the garage door shut and crawled under the car, his back scraping the undercarriage. The garage light flickered dimly overhead. Something shuffled outside. Ezra held his breath. A shadow passed under the door crack, stretching, distorting. Then, a sound like laughter played backward. The doorknob twisted. He pressed his hand over his mouth. The door creaked open, and the animation stepped inside. From where he lay, Ezra could see its feet. Oversized shoes like a cartoon hobo's with flapping soles and painted-on laces. It walked like a puppet yanked by drunk strings, its legs crossing oddly, knees buckling without falling. It sniffed the air. Then something changed. Another shape passed by the door, smaller, skittering. Ezra's stomach turned as he saw it. A rat, but not quite. It had joints like a marionette, its fur molded clay, twitching with... When the creature moved deeper into the garage, Ezra rolled out, quiet as he could, and bolted again, this time through a back door that slammed behind him. No sirens, no moonlight, just the strange mechanical flicker of the stars above. He ran through the backyards, each one eerily identical, white fences, lawn chairs, ceramic gnomes with frozen grins. The further he got from the square, the more distorted things became. One yard had a tree growing upside down from the grass, leaves drooping toward the sky. Another had a television embedded in the lawn, playing black and white cartoons on loop, showing scenes that twisted and warped frame by frame into violence. Finally, the houses thinned. He reached the edge of town. The hills rolled out before him, endless and empty, the grass too uniform, the stars too still. Ezra stumbled into the field, his breath heaving, and spotted it. A single water tower in the distance. Its silhouette shimmered with the reflection of almond water. Nearby, parked in the middle of nowhere, was a lone milk van, its windows fogged. He didn't know where else to go. The floating castle loomed above now, closer than before, its outline clearer, lit from within by something pulsing, waiting. Ezra kept running toward the tower, the grass whispering with each step. Behind him, he heard them coming. Animations, smilers, and worse. The grass lapped at Ezra's ankles like velvet tongues as he sprinted toward the water tower, its skeletal frame rising like a monument in an endless sea. His breath burned in his chest, and every time he glanced back, he caught flickers, jerky shapes lurching across the landscape. One stumbled on all fours, a hound, snarling in twisted increments like a slideshow of its own rage. Another drifted sideways through the air, limbs trailing behind it like a puppet drowning in slow motion. The night here didn't deepen like normal darkness. It pixelated. Stars blinked in and out with analog fuzz. The horizon kept bending and snapping, warping like a strip of damaged film. It wasn't just nightfall. It was a breakdown of the world itself. The water tower stood crooked, its tank rusted and patched with tin that looked too pristine, like set dressing. A ladder ran up its side, bolted crookedly into the metal. Without slowing, Ezra jumped and scrambled up, his hands slipping on the rungs. Below, the chorus of entities grew louder, scraping, giggling, murmuring. A smiler darted between hills, its glowing grin the only visible part, flickering like teeth in a dream. He reached the top and hauled himself onto the platform. From here, the view was wrong. The town in the distance twitched, lights flashing in patterns that didn't align with physics, like someone playing with a lighting board. Beyond the hills, he could see rooms, entire living rooms, kitchens, hallways, just sitting in the grass, disconnected from any structure. One had a still-spinning ceiling fan. Another held a dining table set for dinner, candles melting slowly in time-lapse stutters. Ezra turned to the hatch on the water tank. It was sealed with a rusted lock. He gripped it, twisted. It broke clean off, disintegrating into dust. He lifted the hatch. Inside, almond water glowed faintly, sloshing gently as though stirred from below. He leaned in. That's when the voice came. From somewhere not external, but within his head. A whisper, wrapped in static. Drink and wake, or stay and remember. Ezra recoiled. What What does that mean? The tower trembled. Below, one of the animations had begun climbing the ladder, its body flailing with each reach, hands bending the rungs. It laughed, gurgling, and glitched. Ezra backed toward the edge of the platform, heart pounding. He looked at the glowing water again. He didn't know what it meant to wake. Was this a dream? A memory? A trap? The creature was almost there, its fingers curled over the last rung, eyes wide and lidless, mouth stretching to the corners of its face. Ezra made a choice. He dove, straight into the almond water. The sensation was immediate, too cold, too bright, like plunging into a strobe. It pulled him downward through layers of thick syrup and shimmering light, and he couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, just falling. And then he was standing, soaked, coughing, blinking in the daylight. But it wasn't the town anymore. He stood in a grassy hill again, but this time the hills were still, silent, real. A gentle breeze played through the air. No music, no hum, no analog flicker. In front of him, a single white door. Freestanding, no frame, no hinges, just there. Behind him, the floating castle shimmered, closer than ever. Its windows pulsed like eyes. From somewhere far away, faint laughter echoed, not threatening, childlike. Ezra turned the handle of the door and stepped through. The door closed behind Ezra without a sound. He was inside a room now, though calling it that felt too generous. It was a hallway, but the walls shifted like cloth hung in a windless space. They breathed. The wallpaper, a once elegant floral print, peeled in synchronized pulses, revealing layers beneath. Newspaper clippings, hand-drawn eyes, 1930s cartoons with their faces scrubbed off in graphite smears.
Light came from nowhere, yet everything was visible in sharp monochrome, like a black and white film had come to life around him. Even Ezra's skin had changed hue, no longer flesh-colored, but a soft gray, as though the world had painted over him. The hallway stretched forward with no visible end, only doors on either side. Some cracked open, some sealed tight with wax or belts or something worse. He reached for the first door on his left and gently pushed it open. Inside was a bedroom, a child's. A nightlight in the shape of a mouse flickered on the dresser, projecting dancing shapes onto the ceiling. The bed was made, perfect, like in a catalog, but someone, or something, was under the covers, a lump, unmoving. Ezra stepped in, breath held. He approached the bed slowly. The ticking sound returned, that invisible projector again. He peeled back the blanket. There was a doll, old, hand-stitched, with button eyes and sewn lips. Its arms ended in tiny, floppy gloves. Ezra reached for it, something tugging in his gut like a memory, then froze. The doll blinked. Its button eyes twisted, reshaping into real ones for a split second before returning. It smiled, mouth tearing a bit at the stitches. Ezra stumbled back, knocking over a lamp that didn't fall, just froze in midair. He fled the room, back into the hallway. Something was different. The corridor was shorter now, tighter. The wallpaper crawled with ants, or things pretending to be ants. From the end of the hall came music again, but this time it was a lullaby, scratchy and broken. Go to sleep, little dreamer. Let the reel unwind. Ezra turned toward the sound and followed it. The doors he passed began to warp. Some became televisions, flickering static cartoons inside glass panes. Others melted into the walls. The hallway pulsed with heat and the scent of celluloid. Then abruptly, the hallway ended. He stood in what looked like a vintage theater lobby. Velvet carpet, chandeliers made of flickering reels, a concession stand filled with popcorn bags that moved ever so slightly. Behind the ticket counter sat an usher, head down, body unmoving. Its skin was matte and rough, clay. Ezra stepped closer. The usher raised its head. Its eyes were hollow sockets filled with film tape slowly unwinding. It didn't speak, but it handed Ezra a stub of yellowed paper, a ticket. Admit 1, the final reel. Ezra looked up. The theater doors had opened. Inside was only darkness. He stepped through, and the doors slammed shut behind him. The theater swallowed him. No footsteps echoed. No air moved. The silence inside wasn't emptiness. It was deliberate, as though the space had been vacuumed of sound, of breath, of time. Ezra stood on sticky carpet, eyes adjusting to the dim light. Rows of seats stretched down in a gentle slope toward a massive screen draped in red curtains, motionless and velvet damp with age. Each seat held a figure, not people, mannequins. Clay-skinned, rubber-jointed, frozen mid-gesture, some with their heads tilted back in mock laughter, others mid-clap. Every one faced the screen. None acknowledged Ezra. He walked slowly down the aisle, the ticket stub clenched in his fist, ink smearing into his palm. As he passed, some mannequins shifted subtly, fingers twitching, mouths slightly adjusting their grins. It was not imagination, they were aware of him. He found a seat near the front, the plush cushion oddly warm. When he sat, the screen flickered once, then again. The curtains shivered, then yanked themselves open with a jerking jolt. The projector started. Click. Whirr. Click. On screen, an old cartoon began. Grainy, black and white, but familiar. A little too familiar. It showed the fountain in the town square. Empty. Still. Then figures entered, animated in rubber hose style. Ezra recognized one, the milkman, smiling, bouncing in that offbeat way. Another was the girl with pigtails, waving at the camera, smile stitched to her face. The town looped, cars driving in circles, milk delivered, music playing. Then the cartoon changed. Night fell, abruptly. The animation appeared, leaping out from the fountain like a twisted circus act. It tore through the town, grinning, dancing, dismembering. The other characters didn't run. They clapped, laughed. Ezra's stomach turned as the camera zoomed in on the faces of the victims. Their eyes weren't drawn. They were real, human. Suddenly the screen changed again. It showed a bedroom, a bed. Ezra's bed. On screen he slept, twitching, sweating. Then his eyes opened. In the film, Ezra sat up, walked to the window, opened it, climbed out, and disappeared into fog. Ezra stared, heart pounding. He whispered, "This is a dream." The mannequin next to him turned its head. "No," it said, voice a hollow, real echo. "You dreamed this. That makes it real." The film changed one last time. The camera floated through the grass hills, toward the floating castle. Inside its window, a shadow watched, then it turned. Ezra saw his own face, but it wasn't quite his. It grinned too wide, moved too smoothly, eyes made of film. The screen went black. The end appeared in white, stark letters, but then the letters twisted. The beginning. The lights in the theater snapped on. Every mannequin turned its head toward him, in perfect unison, and began to rise. The theater filled with the sound of cloth and plastic scraping against velvet. The mannequins stood in stilted choreography, one by one, twitching in their joints. Their hands curled. Heads ticked to the side like toys remembering how to move. Their eyes, those hollow, clay-sculpted sockets, glowed faintly.
From the center of the floor rose a circular platform, its edges turning like the lazy hand of a clock. On it stood a marionette, large, man-sized, its limbs thick and gleaming like lacquered bone. Its painted-on face had been done with care. Big white eyes with inked lashes, a crimson-lipped mouth that stretched across the lower half of its head. It wore a dusty tuxedo and a cracked bow tie. Strings connected it to nothing, but it moved. It raised one hand. The mannequin stopped clapping. The marionette bowed with exaggerated grace, then turned to face Ezra directly. "Welcome," it rasped. "You've reached the center of your performance." Ezra stood slowly, his legs trembling. "Where am I?" he asked, voice dry, brittle. The marionette's painted eyes flicked wider. "Where else would you be? You dreamt this." It took a step forward, joints bending the wrong way. "Every frame, every hill, every scream." "I didn't," Ezra shook his head. "I didn't dream this. I couldn't." "But you did." The mannequins echoed him in chorus. "You did. You did. You did." The marionette gestured, and the theater warped. The velvet curtains peeled back like skin, revealing not brick walls, but film strips, giant and alive, looping through the void. They showed memories, twisted versions of Ezra's life. A birthday party, but everyone wore porcelain masks. A school hallway, flooded with almond water. His childhood bedroom, walls breathing in and out. "This is the reel of your mind," the marionette whispered. "Every sleeper has one. Most never find it. But you're lucid." Ezra's head pounded. "I don't want this." "You already chose it." He turned, ready to run, but the theater seats had vanished. The mannequins now floated in space, orbiting the platform. Beyond them, through the film strip curtains, the sky split open. There it was, the floating castle. Close. Real. More real than anything else in this level. Its windows blinked like eyes. Its towers swayed like they breathed. "You're nearly there," said the marionette, voice low and reverent. "To the seat of the dreamer. The castle is your creation, your keeper, your end. What happens if I reach it? Then we see how deep your dreaming goes." The stage shuddered. A bridge extended from the edge of the platform, made of old reels of film, unspooling into the darkness. At its end, the castle floated, vast and trembling. Ezra stepped toward it. Behind him, the mannequins bowed. The marionette spoke once more, soft and final. "Break the loop, or let it play forever." Ezra crossed the threshold. The castle awaited.
The film reel bridge groaned beneath Ezra's feet, every step echoing like a reel skipping frames. The strips stretched into the void, spliced together with scenes he dared not look at, flickers of his life, bent and corrupted. One frame showed him in a classroom, eyes hollowed, a cartoon smile drawn crudely across his face. Another showed his mother, but her skin was stitched linen and her fingers puppeted by unseen strings. He kept walking. Ahead, the floating castle pulsed in slow, unnatural rhythms. It was stitched together from impossible pieces, turrets made from stacked phonograph horns, stained glass windows that shimmered with looping scenes of dancing entities, and almond water fountains. Its walls, when he finally reached them, were not stone, but clay. Clay shaped like stone, chiseled meticulously down to each hand-sculpted crack. Ezra reached the massive front doors. They opened inward before he touched them. Inside, the castle was warm. The air hummed with film static and a low, continuous lullaby that wove its way through the halls like incense. He walked down a corridor lined with portraits, but each frame contained only him. Dozens of versions, some older, some much younger, some twisted into animation, some cracked like broken puppets. One showed him asleep in bed, eyelids fluttering. It was still moving. He passed mirrors that showed no reflection, lamps shaped like eyeballs, wall sconces that blinked when he got too close. The floor rose and fell in slow breathing motions. Then he came to a spiral staircase. Clay steps, velvet banister. It stretched up into nothing. He climbed. With each step, the castle changed. The walls became darker, more organic. The breathing floor turned to flesh-like textures, occasionally twitching beneath his shoes. The sound of the projector, so constant, so subtle, grew louder, rhythmic, mechanical. Click, 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 click. Ezra emerged into a grand circular chamber. It was a throne room, but no king had ever sat here. At the center was a throne made from discarded film reels, bent theater seats, and puppet limbs. Seated in it was a figure. It was him, but distorted. Its arms were longer. Its skin was matte gray like dried clay. Its eyes were whirring camera lenses, and its chest had a gaping hole where a reel of film spun continuously, feeding into its body. Ezra froze. The figure looked up. "Welcome home." Its voice was perfect. His voice, but unburdened, smiling. "What are you?" "I'm what was left behind when you woke up. I am the dream of you. And you." It stood. The reel in its chest clicked faster. "You are trying to forget me." Ezra took a step back. The room shifted with him. The floor beneath became unstable, sloping like a warping frame. "You can leave," the figure said. "Drink the water again. Wake up, like they all do."
Forget the loop. But this place will go on. I will go on. And I'll wait. Until you sleep again. The reel twisted faster. Images projected on the walls now. Ezra's face, his fears, his mistakes, dreams he didn't remember dreaming. "Or," the figure said, stepping down from the throne, "you stay. Break the cycle. End the dream." It held out a reel. On its label, scrawled in jittery handwriting, "Final cut." Ezra reached for it, hand trembling. If he took it, he knew the loop would end, or everything would unravel. Ezra's fingers brushed the edge of the reel. It was warm, vibrating softly, like it was alive. The final cut. His reflection, if it even was a reflection, stood perfectly still, hand outstretched, eyes made of shuttered film reels spinning faster. The throne room around them groaned with every passing second. Cracks crawled across the clay walls. The images on the film strips were beginning to bleed together, distorting into a mass of moments that Ezra couldn't tell apart anymore. His first day of school, his father leaving, the day he found a sketchbook filled with eyes that weren't his. They repeated, mutated. Some had never happened. Some were happening now. "Take it," said the dream thing in his voice. "You wanted control. This is it." Ezra hesitated. "What happens if I play it?" The thing tilted its head. "Then it ends." "Ends how?" "That's the beauty. You won't know until you press play." Ezra looked down at the reel. It was labeled in ink, but beneath it, scratched faintly into the plastic, was another word. "Help." His own handwriting. He staggered back. "I didn't write that." "You will," the reflection said, stepping closer. "Every time you try to wake up, you find this place. You want to end it. And every time, you get scared." "No," Ezra gritted his teeth. "Not this time." The room trembled violently. The film on the walls caught fire, silent flames licking up images of birthdays, failures, almond water fountains, and twisted creatures. The throne crumbled behind them. "You still don't get it, do you?" said the thing in his voice. "This isn't your dream. You're inside something else's. Something that feeds on dreams. That keeps you looping because your mind makes the best stories. What are you?" It smiled impossibly wide. "I'm your imagination, but I've gone feral." Ezra looked at the reel again. The reel looked back, and he knew what he had to do. He turned toward the projector. It stood behind the throne, massive and ancient. Its reels had been running all this time, feeding the world frame by frame. It was carved from the same clay as the castle, pulsing with stolen thoughts, blinking lenses, and a mouth, yes, a mouth, that chewed on strips of discarded memories. Ezra lifted the final cut. "No more loops," he said. "No more rewinds." The dream thing lunged at him. Ezra jammed the reel into the projector slot and pressed play. The screen went white. Everything went white. The sound of the reel spinning became a scream. Metal, static, human and inhuman all at once. The throne cracked. The walls dissolved. The castle collapsed inward like an ink drawing dropped in water. The floating hills, the fake grass, the almond water towers, the animation, all unmade. Ezra opened his eyes. He lay in his bed. Sheets tangled. The room was dark, still. Outside his window, nothing but wind and street lights. He sat up, rubbed his face. His heart raced, but his chest was whole. His thoughts, his own. He stood, walked to the mirror, looked at himself. No rubber hose limbs, no lens eyes, just Ezra. But something was off. He turned his palm upward, and there, pressed into the skin, faint but undeniable, Admit one, the final reel, burned like a stamp in his flesh. Ezra didn't sleep for 2 nights. He kept the lights on, kept the TV playing static or low-volume sitcom reruns just to drown out the silence. He avoided mirrors, refused to look at the palm of his hand, though the imprint burned like a phantom sun. Admit one, the final reel. It hadn't faded. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard it. That sound, the click, click, click of the projector reel. Distant, muffled, but always there, like it had followed him back. By the third day, he couldn't stay awake anymore. Sleep took him like a velvet curtain pulled tight. He braced for level 94. Instead, he woke in his own room again. Daylight. Nothing wrong. Except something was wrong. The photograph on his dresser. He didn't remember owning it. A smiling couple. The man was definitely him, but the woman, he had never met her in his life. And they were standing in front of the fountain in the town square. He flipped the photo over on the back. "Don't forget to smile," written in loopy 1930s cartoon script. He dropped it. The photo didn't land. It hovered in midair, twitching slightly, then slowly sank like it was falling through invisible molasses. Ezra backed away. He ran into the hallway. His apartment was still there, still real but off. The lights flickered, even though the bulbs were fine. The shadows didn't bend right. In the corner of the ceiling near the smoke detector, a loop of film hung like a cobweb. He reached for the front door. The knob turned, but when he opened it, the milk van was parked outside. The chrome cow mascot on the side winked. No driver, just almond milk bottles stacked in the back, fogging gently. Ezra slammed the door shut. No, this is real. This is real. From behind him, a music box jingle began to play. Off key. Familiar. He turned slowly. The television was on, black and white cartoon. A character walked across a looping landscape. Ezra, animated, his legs moving in that stop-motion stutter. He watched himself reach a castle in the sky. He watched himself sit on the throne. He watched himself press play. He turned off the TV. It kept playing. The projector noise was louder now, not from the screen, but from the walls. He pressed his palm to the drywall. It was warm. It was pulsing. Then, from behind him, a voice. "Cut." Ezra froze. The mirror in the hallway showed not his reflection, but the marionette. Its eyes lens wide, its mouth painted, its body stringless. And it spoke again. "Ready for the next take?" Ezra stepped back. The mirror cracked down the center. The crack split wider, and fingers reached through. The fingers pushing through the mirror were long, tapering, lacquered like freshly dried clay. They flexed, felt around the air of Ezra's hallway, and then gripped the frame with unnatural precision. Cracks spiderwebbed across the glass as the thing began to pull itself through. Ezra backed away slowly, every breath catching in his throat. The hallway light flickered, then turned sepia. Not dim, not gone. A film filter. His walls lost their texture. His ceiling smoothed into painted sky. The floor, once wood, now clicked beneath his feet like a soundstage being prepped for a scene change. Even his heartbeat began to feel timed, syncopated, like part of a score he couldn't hear, but somehow obeyed. The mirror split entirely, and the marionette stepped through. Its tuxedo was dustless, its smile unchanged, but now it wore a director's headset around its neck. A clipboard in one hand, a piece of chalk in the other, with which it scratched the words, "Scene 2, Waking Life," into the air. The letters hung there, suspended midair, flickering like flicks of a reel. "You left before the credits," it said, tapping its clipboard. "That's bad form." Ezra turned and ran. Down the hallway, into his kitchen. Every window now showed the stop-motion town. Cars looping, milk vans passing the same corner over and over. One of the buildings, his apartment building, stood in the distance. He threw open the front door again.
Instead of a hallway, a soundstage. Spotlights, mannequins holding boom mics. A set with the label, Ezra's apartment, interior, day.
No! He screamed. This isn't mine.
He turned, and there he was. Not the marionette, not the mannequin, but himself, Clay Ezra, the one from the throne room, his face painted with just enough humanity to feel wrong. He held a reel in his hand, Ezra's own memories. It spun slowly, dripping almond water onto the floor with each turn.
Lines, please,
Clay Ezra said, holding up the script.
You're ad-libbing again. Stay in character.
Ezra grabbed the nearest thing he could, a glass of water, and threw it. The glass stopped midair. Time froze. Even the drip from the ceiling paused. Then the marionette snapped a clapperboard.
Cut!
Everything rewound, fast, glass reforming, water unspilling. Ezra jolted as the world lurched backward, and then started again. He was back in his kitchen. But now, applause. A studio audience? He turned and saw an open wall. Beyond it, rows and rows of mannequin audience members, clapping and cheering. Laugh tracks layered in sloppy, overlapping loops. He screamed. The audience roared with laughter. He fell to his knees. They cheered. The marionette leaned in close, whispering beside him. You thought you woke up. It tapped Ezra's chest. But you never left. From above, the ceiling tore open, not plaster but film. It curled away like paper being burned, revealing once more the floating castle, hanging above everything, waiting, always watching. And from the castle's tallest tower, a projector clicked, and clicked, and clicked. And Ezra's voice echoed in the back of his mind. I want to wake up now. And another voice, layered with his own. You dreamt this. The castle opened above like a wound in the sky. Through the burning reel that had replaced Ezra's ceiling, strips of dream unraveled. They dangled down in coils, twisting across his living room, no, the set, with that same grainy texture, curling and uncurling like breathing celluloid snakes. The mannequins in the audience rose, their clapping growing mechanical, erratic. One collapsed mid-applause, splitting open, empty, just a hollow frame, a wire spine, and a single photo reel stuffed where a heart should have been. Ezra's face was on every frame. The marionette placed a hand on his shoulder. You made such a lovely dream, it said, gently. But it's time to film the ending. The real one. Ezra shook his head. I destroyed it. I ended it. I played the final cut. You did, it admitted. And the dream ended. So we built you a new one. The marionette gestured outward toward the city beyond the mirror frame walls, where the stop-motion sun was rising again, resetting. The fountain began to bubble anew. The milk van restarted its loop. The sirens began their music, a slightly different tune this time. Cheerier. Ezra staggered backward. No, no more. He turned. Behind him, a staircase now spiraled up, carved not from stone or clay, but strips of his own life. Memories twisted into steps. The staircase shimmered with fading logic. At the top of the stairway, a projection screen. Endless. White. Ezra climbed. Each step struck a chord in some unseen orchestra. Music followed him, off tune but rising. Behind him, the marionette climbed too. And the clay Ezra followed, and behind them the audience of mannequins, rising like floodwater. Ezra reached the top. The screen towered before him, blank, empty, waiting. A voice whispered in his ear, Project yourself. A console appeared, like the one in the throne room, but cracked, flickering. In its slot, a blank reel, no label. Ezra reached into his chest, without pain, without fear, and pulled. A shimmering strand of film uncoiled from beneath his ribs. His story. He fed it into the projector. It hissed, groaned, then... play. The screen exploded with light, but there was no town, no milk vans, no clay, no castle. Just a bed, a room, a boy, sleeping. The screen zoomed closer. The boy twitched in bed, murmuring. The blanket shifted. Ezra recognized the face instantly, his own, but young, maybe 10. He watched the boy jolt awake, gasping, saw him scribble in a notebook. On the page, the first image of a town square, a castle in the sky, a stick-figure version of a milkman, The first dream. Ezra stared, his breath catching. I made it, he whispered. I didn't find it. I made it. The marionette stepped beside him. All creators get devoured by what they create, if they don't finish it. Ezra turned to face it. Then let me finish it. He stepped to the edge of the platform, took one final look at the screen, still glowing with a sleeping boy, and jumped into it. There was no landing, only waking. Ezra sat bolt upright in bed, gasping, heart slamming. It was morning, real morning. No music, no fountain, no clay. He stood, trembling, and walked to the mirror. His reflection stared back. Normal. Alive. On the floor near his bed, his childhood sketchbook lay open.
Drawings of castles, smiling milkmen, fountains, and monsters stared back at him, all done in pencil, all from another life. He picked it up, flipped to the last page. There, in his own handwriting, you dreamt this, but it ends when you stop watching. The page was blank after that. Ezra closed the book, and finally the projector stopped.